a bit about and watching all his YouTube videos lately, and I'm sure hopefully a few of you have watched his YouTube channel because it's pretty cool seeing him go to different collections and zoos and even just puttering around in his own greenhouse and basement with the different species that he's working with and different projects that he's doing. I find that pretty cool. But yeah, I guess I'll get our sponsorship stuff out of the way since Dominic's not here. Dominic will be a little late. He'll probably be about, probably should be here in the next 15 or 30 minutes or so. But yeah, Reptile Rejects Podcast is gladly sponsored by Cornell's World. Cornell's World is one of North America's leaders in reptile caging and reptile supplies. They can ship anywhere in North America. Greg West and Cornell's World can build you custom PVC cages, custom glass terrariums, and just the standard PVC cages, along with supplying Spider Robotics supplies and all the other reptile brands from Arcadia to ZoomEd and cleaning supplies. Basically, whatever you need, you can order at cornellsworld.com. And also check out wcre.ca for the Western Canadian Reptile Expo. The show will be this next weekend in Calgary, April 18th and 19th at the Acadia Rec Center. So come on down and say hello. You can pre-book your tickets at wcre.ca or check out or book your VIP hour pass and skip the lines. So yeah, if you guys are going to be there, I'll probably see you there. Alrighty, now back to the show. Alrighty, Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I tell you, I'm excited. I got to get up to Canada here now. I've never been to Canada. I need to get up there for a reptile theme something, a turtle theme something, and represent and connect with the turtle peeps north of the border here.
Oh yeah, the turtle hobby definitely feels kind of smaller here. But it's probably like how it almost is in the U.S., where like there's probably a bunch of people that have stuff, but they're either maybe old timers kind of thing. I know in BC there's a couple like old timer guys that you wouldn't even know they were around as like, oh yeah, they have a bunch of African side necks and African mud turtles or the Central American wood turtles and all that fun stuff. And then out in Ontario, I always see the odd ad for different musk turtles and stuff that are definitely babies. And then there's one lady in Quebec that actually has a pretty neat collection of Cora and Hamiltoni, and actually some Diamondback terrapins. Yeah.
Cool.
And, but also some other stuff. Like there's a couple guys that breed the leaf turtles that I know you're pretty into, kind of thing. Yeah. And then there's a bunch. I think there's more tortoise people than there are turtle people, honestly. But I could be wrong. But that's just how it kind of feels. Like you can look at because since Canada's like, you're not really like nobody. Some people up here use morph market, but since turtles as well as caudats can't be kind of sold across, like we can't sell them out or bring any more in, kind of thing for chelonians and caudats. It's kind of all here, so you would actually more find that on like our equivalent. Like we have Craigslist, but you can't sell animals on there. But like Kijiji, so you can kind of see who the couple turtle and tortoise people are that regularly breed stuff. They have ads on there, kind of thing. Like Julie out in Quebec, like she breeds box turtles too, which are that kind of interest me too, because like as a kid, like in BC, we couldn't really have box turtles, kind of thing. There's probably a few people that have some that they had when they were kids, kind of thing, before anybody really cared about the laws in BC. But yeah, no, it'd be I'm kind of slowly getting into the turtle thing. Like I'm gonna get my first pair of Hermans, but I kind of wanted to wait for it to be like the right kind of time. Like I definitely wouldn't mind baby turtles or tortoises, but it's kind of like one of those, like, it's a really long-term kind of commitment. So I kind of felt better knowing that they're already like adult animals, and that like one of our friends, me and Jalen's friend, kind of had them. So I kind of felt like it was like the kind of the right time to do that.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, yeah, for sure.
It makes sense. It's all relative though, too, when you talk about different places and, the turtle prevalence in those different areas. Like, for so long, I've spent so many years just like depressed that I live in Connecticut, which, by United States standards is pretty much the cold north and not necessarily a turtle capital of the world. But then you start to think about it, and there are some people though, as to your point, that are a little bit hidden out there, but they do want to collaborate. Just might take a little bit of time to find those people, but nothing compares to, Arizona for tortoises, Florida for turtles and tortoises, and that gets a little frustrating sometimes when you're not in one of those places that's just like super turtle centric. But I tell people all the time, and I'm sure this is something we'll end up talking about. There's so much opportunity to make a positive impact beyond just keeping and breeding. Now, obviously, keeping and breeding is like my favorite thing. Nothing makes me happier than the little turtle hatching out of an egg. But there's a lot of other ways, like this podcast, that you can make a real difference. Beyond, or I guess I should say, in addition to the keeping and the breeding part, which is so fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's partly why. Like, I kind of felt like it was time to make a podcast, because I know one of our good friends, Smitty, and that they've kind of rolled back their podcast weekly, because like me and my co-host are definitely more like kind of snake centric. But then being only 24, my mind is still kind of I still have that kind of Noah's Ark. Like, I've been pretty good at keeping my collection. Like, I don't have 300 animals. I have like 30. Yeah. And then I'm kind of building on that a little bit, but I like keeping it so I can, worst case scenario, I can look through everything in 10 minutes kind of thing quickly. It's not, I don't have to worry about it being kind of too over the top, at least at this point.
It's funny. It reminds me of like dating in your teens and 20s. Like, some people marry their high school sweetheart, and that's great, and that works for them. But for me, I don't know. It's just, as a married man now, an older married man, I feel very happy that I got to, date a few people before I decided to settle down with my wife. And it's kind of the same way for turtles too. There are things that I love now that are like, that mean so much to me, but I would not, gosh, when I started with turtles, I didn't even know what some of these species were. And now they're a huge part of my life. So nothing wrong with trying a few things out, as long as you're doing it responsibly. I feel like I'm talking about dating and turtles and reptiles at the same time. But as long as you're doing it responsibly and making sure that the animals are taken care of when you have them. And the sad reality of that is that you're going to try things that you're going to end up moving on from. But, if I'm being honest, I'd be lying to you if I said I never did that. And I'd also think it's important just to say that that's okay. Like, it's okay to do that, to try things and to see what really resonates, because you don't know until you actually try it. I used to think that I was into tall blondes, and now my wife is a short brunette. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Nothing against tall blondes or anything. It's just how it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same with me and snakes kind of thing, right? Like, I was like, oh, like NPR was really what I think that's how like a lot of people kind of got into the reptile podcasting, because I was like that original one. And then back right at the end of high school was like, okay, like I stopped playing baseball, and then I kind of came back into reptiles because I've had my Sambos for 15 years now, since I was a kid, and still had them through that whole time. Now I still have them, but
Cool.
But it's like you come back into it, and then like you go to that. But then honestly, like I'm actually, this week, my co-host is going to send me my first pair of actual Morelia. Cool. So that'll actually be cool, since I've been listening to Eric and Owen for who knows how long.
What's funny, in my little turtle world, we talk all the time about how long tenured our podcast, the Pondcast, is. We've been doing the Pondcast for, gosh, I think it's 14-ish years. And I always say that it's the second longest running reptile podcast that's still like consistently in existence or whatever. But I always give the crown to Morelia Python Radio, because that was for sure. That's the one that's been around the longest, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think so. I think they would be the ones. Like, I remember the ones that kind of started as I got back into it, like THP, and I'm sure a bunch of others kind of thing. But yeah, no. Are you guys going to get back to maybe releasing it on the podcast platforms, or are you just kind of keeping it to YouTube? Because I remember like trying to listen to some of them, and then all of a sudden they kind of came off, but then you guys weren't really uploading them all, kind of thing. Or how's that going?
Yeah, I'll be honest, that's 100% my fault. We have a team that kind of works on it, and we brought people in over the years, like different co-hosts and stuff like that. The only person that's really been on it since the beginning is me. So a lot of times, like the need to take care of those those more clerical, I don't know, like mundane tasks of like all the behind the scenes stuff falls to me a lot of the times, posting and promoting, and honestly, I just haven't really had it in me. I've been kind of busy with work and then the other turtle related things that I'm doing. So I haven't done it, but it's been on my to-do list for about 2 years. So we'll see if I ever start chipping away at that or not. But yeah, I haven't been putting them on the podcast platforms for the audio only audiences.
Yeah, no, I look forward to that because now we don't. Well, I'm not sure what happened to Ryan because I remember listening to all those religiously kind of thing. So it'd be cool to kind of hear more, or even if, yeah, like I kind of wish some other. I don't know. I feel like it's an untapped thing. Like you could have like even just a strict tortoise. You could go really into it kind of thing. Obviously, there's been good shows with like you and the Connexus guys have been on a couple different shows as well. And then yeah, like I feel, but it's like it's just that untapped part that is tapped into if you know where to look, right? Because you guys are like your own separate part of herpetoculture in terms of having the conferences and all that are just for chelonians, right?
We talk about it all the time. It's if you make a turtle podcast, it's called a turtle podcast, even if you sprinkle in other reptiles. But if you're a snake lover and you make a podcast, it's called a reptile podcast. So
yeah, which is like kind of which doesn't make sense, right? Like that's why with this podcast I'm trying to bring on guys like you and eventually some amphibian stuff too, because I'm having fun with the caudats as well. I got some yellow spotted newts that are breeding well for me, and honestly they're pretty fun to keep because you can just keep them room temperature and keep them like a fish without a heater, and they do just fine, kind of thing.
That's the same thing with the leaf turtles. But I think that's great though, because there are a lot of people that identify as kind of reptile generalists, and obviously that spreads into amphibians and even invertebrates and things like that. So I'm all for it. But yeah, I just find that interesting that a turtle podcast is never called a reptile podcast, even if we do talk about other reptiles.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, Dom. Dom, how are you doing?
What's up, peeps?
Hi,
hey, man, how are you? Good. Sorry about being late. It's the first time ever, so I'm gonna take it that it's not gonna happen too often. Nice to meet you, Anthony. I have no idea what was spoken about, but I love what you're saying, and you're totally right. We called ourselves Reptile Rejects, knowing this was going to be a snake podcast.
Right.
Like we're both snake people, so it was 100% that. But I guess the snakes are the bigger part of the reptile hobby. Would that be a fair point to say?
Yes, for sure. So, and when you think about the hobby or the industry, and we use some of those words and throw those around, yeah, I think, go to a reptile show. Like, what do you see the most of? It certainly is not turtles. So, yeah.
Although Daytona is definitely the turtle show, and I definitely want to. I need to make it down there also for the snake part, because that's where all like those Trumbauer and I've got stuff from Rob Nimmo. He seems like another great guy, and you got Tony Dangara, and then like I guess just a bunch of South Florida, like Ron St. Pierre and Heather, and a bunch of other guys. But then obviously Wayne puts it on.
Yes.
And if anybody knows Wayne just a little bit and that whole thing, he's a turtle guy, right?
Totally, and it shows. Daytona's insane. Like I'll give myself. Travel's tough, right? And I've been the last couple of years. I've done like a family trip with Daytona. Like I'll take my wife and daughters down, and we'll go to Disney, and I'll leave them at Disney, do a little tour around Florida, get a couple videos shot for the YouTube channel, and then go over to the show and give myself Friday night, whether I speak at Turtle Night because they do talks the night before, or just attend or whatever, and then the show, and I'll give myself like 7 hours. And like I work fast, I'm going to go as fast as I can and see everything. And literally, this has been like several years running now. I have not been able to see the whole show, even with giving myself like 7 hours. That's crazy.
How many tables are there? Because 7 hours is a lot.
I know. Well, here.
Are you talking the whole time?
There are so many turtle people that because I'm a turtle centric dude and people know it. I'm also like 6'8", so I like people see me right away and they're like, "Oh, hey, Anthony, what's going on?" So I can't make my way through that show in 7 hours. I actually need to go like normally at a reptile show, you're like bored after a couple hours. You've seen every table, you walk past the tables that don't really interest you a lot, even if you are trying to see stuff that's like outside of your wheelhouse, you're still going to finish up, at some point. It's not going to take you 7 hours to get through a reptile show. I don't care who you are, but just something about that turtle centric show. If you can go to every single reptile show in the US and not see as many cool turtles and not see as many total species as you'd probably see at Daytona cumulatively, like all the other shows combined. And that's a lot of different reptile shows.
We could say that for Canada as well. Like, so North America as a whole, because I think at our shows, like in BC, the only turtles you'll actually see are probably pink bellies. If the one, my buddy who like, he breeds a bunch of his own stuff, but then like turtles and tortoises, he doesn't breed them. So he brings them in from the well-known breeders that we have. And so like we'll have actually a decent selection of pretty good kind of tortoises and turtles, but turtles are, you don't see them a lot. Like I think at Toronto, he did bring a couple Indian spotteds and maybe a couple box turtles, but that was probably it for turtles for the whole show kind of thing, right? Like at tortoises, it's pretty, like, you get the redfoots and you get the Russians and Hermans. They're great. Like they're turtles that almost everybody should be able to keep it on. Even in Canada, there's at least like 3-4 months of the year that you could probably supply a pen to keep them outside, at least during the day kind of thing. Like, I'm sure living in southern Alberta here, I could probably keep Russian tortoises outside like year round theoretically, although it does get pretty cold and you'd have to come up with something that it'd probably be best just to bring them into your basement, at least in the winter. But the other 5 months of the year, 6-7 months of the year when it's pretty sunny, you probably could actually keep them outside. But it's definitely tough. And you get the odd, like, there's a bunch of people now breeding like Indian stars, leopards. That's breeding wild. Leopards, but those are, but like that's the main guy that's doing it. He's actually on Vancouver Island, so that's like Vancouver and Vancouver Island are like their own thing where they stay a bit warmer. And like, I'm assuming he's keeping them inside, and then those 3-4 months in the summer, all the tortoises kind of get to go outside and kind of get that actual proper natural sunlight kind of thing. There's a couple people with sulcata stuff, which is, especially when you see the guys in Arizona keeping them, you're like, you just can't. You just can't really do that. When they dig 300 feet underneath the ground, it's like, this is these are definitely not like captive tortoises at all, right? So no. It's
our shows, it's like that a lot. In a lot of places there are some pockets, like Pennsylvania has good shows for turtles because they don't enforce the federal 4-inch law that we have here in the US. So you'll just see baby turtles, and then they get all their baby turtles shipped up from Florida and different places where people are breeding a bunch of them. So that's good. I've seen baby turtles offered for sale at some California shows, some Texas shows recently. But generally speaking, Florida's the best, and Daytona, everything else pales in comparison to Daytona. It's just too good.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Everybody saves their stuff, their good stuff. Like, I'm going to, Daytona's 3 months from now, but I've got these awesome babies that I've been trying to hatch for 10 years. I'm going to wait until Daytona. So
for sure.
That just makes it the best by far. It's not even close.
Yeah. I don't think we don't have any size limits on them, but then I think the price point does help on all of them, honestly, because like, I'm not sure how red ear sliders and yellow ear, how they all kind of still show up kind of thing. Like, they don't show up at shows at all because basically they're illegal everywhere, I think, because painted turtles are native everywhere. And usually that genus is just kind of illegal kind of thing. So, but the thing is, the laws in most of the provinces say that you can keep them. You just can't sell them for money. Okay. Although I'm sure there's some markets that still somehow sell them, because I don't know how else. There's there's these younger red-eared sliders that aren't like 40 years old, kind of still on the classified ad sites kind of thing, right? But no, other than that, like, everything actually has like an okay price point in terms of like the person that just wants to have a turtle, a little baby turtle. Well, they're going to be spending $300 to $350 at the minimum, and tortoises like Hermans and Russians are still $600 a piece, because they have to be captive bred because we cannot import anything. So I guess that stops a lot of impulse, but I wouldn't say I would eliminate it either, because there's obviously people that still spend that money and and then realize down the road that that's a bad idea. So these are definitely long-term commitments, right?
They sure are. Definitely. If they're anything, they're that.
I've never
Yeah.
understood how somebody can actually decide to take on such a commitment, because especially when it surpasses your lifespan, right? Like if you're going to take a sulcata, I mean, how long does that live? 100, 150, right? Like if you were to properly take care of it. So you could be willing to take it. Let's say Michael decides to take it on right now at 20, what are you, 17 or 18, 24, 25? So if he starts now, I mean, that tortoise will outlive him, right? So you're able to make that decision. And even if you make it through, then you need to have a plan for the future life. I just find it to be a very hard, like even making, like you take a look at the majority of people that take on a dog, take on a cat, the 15-year lifespan. It's a very big commitment. Now, a commitment of 100 years, and I know not all tortoises live that way, right? But even if you said the 62 plus, it's a very hard commitment to make. And I think that it's hard for somebody to say, I'm going to do it for that whole time. But if you're going to do it, at least you should be able to have a proper plan moving forward. If you're unable to keep it at some point, whether it be for health reasons or moving to a different city that prevents them, et cetera, et cetera.
100%. And I don't have a will, which is a big no-no. I don't have one yet, but that's also on the to-do list, just like getting those podcasts up on the podcast platforms. But I have, and this is a very flattering, but also very horrible, sad thing is I've taken on animals probably, if I'm not forgetting any, which I probably am, maybe like 4 times where I've gotten a call from someone's widow who says, hey, you were part of the plan, so here come these animals, can you help me? And then I think I just was told that I'm in my 5th will for somebody right now who, if something happens, I'm going to help with their animals. And that doesn't mean I need to take them all or whatever. It's just I've been identified as a trusted person who can help fulfill the family's wishes with the animals if indeed something happens. And that's pretty prevalent in the turtle side of things, because it has to be, and the other piece too that you have to think about is just because you want to take on an animal like a rescue, does that mean, and how many are you going to take on? And are you taking on things that people are going to want? They don't have to be like the rarest, most valuable thing in the world, but like, are you just rescuing a whole bunch of sliders and you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s and you know that there's a finite amount of time, then you better start working on finding homes or a plan for those things like now. As opposed to, okay, I've got a bunch of leaf turtles and spider tortoises that I know the vultures will be coming and hounding my wife to try to get them if I kick the bucket tomorrow.
And on the same token, is it fair to your family members that don't necessarily want to keep any of the animals or don't know how to take care of them, et cetera, et cetera?
They don't want them.
If I die, nobody knows how to take care of my animals. Literally, they will stay there. Nobody's going to go change their cages. So I don't have it in my will, but there is, like, for me, it would be Shan. Shan's less than an hour away. It's always been organized that if something happens to him, something happens to me, we go and we figure it out. Even if he was sick for a month, I would have to go there every couple of days to go clean all his animals and take care of him, vice versa, right? And I would expect that of him, but it's kind of like one of those, it's the only person that I know, and he's actually almost he is an hour away from me, but it would be done, right?
Yeah.
So now, as to for the will, again, same thing. Would he take any of my animals? He's welcome to them, but I assume he would sell more than, because it's too many animals for somebody, right? So I feel like the same thing. You would probably take them on, but you might not want to profit from the animals, but you might sell them probably at a pretty steep discount to move them and then give that money back to the family. Yeah. I feel like that's what I would do, or something like that. Although it's not a job I would love to do.
Most of the time when I'm involved, I'm finding them good homes and I give them for no money, but I always offer. And when I'm talking to the several times that this has happened, I've spoken to the wife of my friend, because it's always been gentlemen that have passed. I'll ask, like, what do you want back for these? Because I can sell them. I just want to make that clear that I can. But my goal is to get the animals in the best situation. So, which you can do whether you're trying to get money back for the family or not. You can still try to get the animal in the best situation. So, those simultaneous truths can coexist at the same time. And can I just call something out? Cloaca Jane is the best name ever, and I've decided that Cloaca Jane is going to get my animals when I pass away. I've just decided.
She'll probably send you a message later.
A couple shows ago too, I said the same thing. I just love that freaking name.
That is I'm going to be Cloaca Tony from now on. This moment, I'm going to just declare that right now in front of everyone.
Yeah, no, for sure.
If my name was Jane and I wanted to be Cloaca Jane, then that would be stealing. But I think Cloaca Tony's open. I've never met a Cloaca Tony, so
no,
thanks,
I
Jane.
don't think there's many Cloaca Tony.
Wow, that's so good.
Oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, yeah. No, we've actually I've been in that position of having to help with Jay on the as somebody's passed away and having to kind of liquidate the collection kind of thing. That was definitely it's definitely tough to go through that, even if like you're not necessarily best friends with that person, but you've been kind of given that job of taking care and then doing it. It's something that I think even snake hobby too, not just turtles, but like the whole hobby in general needs. I think Smitty and that have brought it up in the past on THP kind of thing. That it almost should be a thing that we all think about, especially when we have more than, say, 10 animals. Like it should kind of be like something, whether it's a friend or a group of people, that you kind of let them know that, hey, or your family know that you need to reach out to these people if anything happens, kind of thing. But yeah, no, maybe we should switch the topic from the morbid topics, but it's all stuff that we definitely needs to be talked about more, I think, too.
Yeah, for sure. I'll talk about whatever you want, Michael. I'm an open book.
Well, I don't know exactly what you guys talked about when we first started, but can we start like from the very
Oh yeah,
basic?
We haven't even gotten into we can hit on who Anthony is and maybe what the turtle room is and kind of how do you fit into the chelonian kind of.
Love it.
Let's start with that.
Yeah, love it. And I love the way you asked that too, as opposed to, the one they always do on podcasts. And I'm sorry if you asked this other times, but I've been doing this for so long. And the question is always like, how'd you get into reptiles? Tell me the origin story. And it's like, that's like as cliche as starting talking about the weather. So so far I'd say
you can talk about the weather too if you'd like.
Come on. No, what are we going to talk about? All the snow that we've seen the past several months? No way. I don't want to talk about the weather. It makes me depressed. Although it is the best, most wonderful time of the year because we know good things are coming. Anyway, who am I? So my name's Anthony. I started off my professional career as a social worker, but then I transitioned, thanks to turtles and all the work that I do with turtles, into the veterinary field. So that's what I do professionally. I travel around the U.S. Speaking on like veterinary leadership, and I run like workshops, and I oversee like onboarding for really what's probably the world's biggest veterinary company. But all of that's possible because I'm obsessed with turtles, and I have been since I was 5 years old. My first love was Eastern painted turtles. Took those home as a kid, even though I shouldn't have. So luckily for me, I had bad parenting where they let me do these things and learn some things the hard way, of course, and maybe tortured some animals because I didn't know better. Not purposely, but, just out of ignorance and negligence. So anyway, always was interested in them. I ended up getting recruited to play basketball in college. So I didn't know, I wasn't smart enough. I was the first person in my whole extended family to ever go to college. Nobody was smart enough to help me think about going for something related to my real love that I've had since I was 5. So I don't have a zoology degree. I don't have a biology degree. I graduated with a degree in fine arts of all things. And I found myself thinking, like really being depressed after graduation, because I knew I didn't want to go on and be a starving artist, but I knew I wanted to make a difference with turtles because by that time it had like exploded. I had a dorm room and then a college apartment that was full of turtles and things like that. So I knew it's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how. And I met a like-minded person who had the same interests. His name is Steve Enders. He's my partner at the Turtle Room, and he knew how to make a website. So he founded the Turtle Room. So he's the founder and president. I'm the vice president and his right-hand man. And we built this nonprofit, which now does a bunch of work to conserve turtles in the wild, and to a lot of times we use the term preserve animals in captivity, endangered species, and then also most importantly to educate people, because I'm a people person. He's got his master's in education. He's a teacher. So we really try to do the people side of conservation. And all the while, I have a large collection of turtles that I work with, endangered species here at my home, which has really become more of a turtle farm than anything else. And I'm a writer. So I've published 5 books. 4 of those are on turtles. And people don't really read books very much anymore. So most recently, thank you, Michael. Look at that. The Great American Turtle Chase. That's awesome.
He only looks at pictures, though. He doesn't actually read them.
I love it. That's okay. I'll take it. I will take it. That's one of my books right there. Actually, that's like the last book that I wrote, The Great American Turtle Chase. Anyway, I love writing, and it's something that is a very important part of my life. But people don't read books. So about a year and a half ago, I started a new YouTube channel called Just Turtles. And basically the whole goal, I feel like I was put on this earth to help turtles with whatever skills and abilities I have. And I think I fancy myself a little bit of like a turtle hype man. You think of like what Flava Flav and others do, somebody else's song, and someone has to chime in and say, we the best music, and just scream it from the background. That's kind of what I do for turtles, is I just hype them up and try to let people know, what's cool about them and that sort of thing. All right. That was very long-winded. I just filibustered about myself. Hopefully
that was perfect.
Story progressed okay and gave everybody a bit of an idea of who the heck I am.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic.
I'd be very curious to know, though, do you keep mainly turtles or mainly tortoises, or a bit of both?
Great question. I think I'm probably a little more turtles, but probably most of the species I keep, well, I don't know really. It's a pretty good mixture of 3 types. I have aquatic turtles, and then terrestrial turtles, quite a bit of them, and then tortoises. And it's probably an even 3 pillars there for me.
So then my next question would be, I can see how you can keep a lot of tortoises or terrestrial turtles.
Mm-hmm.
The water turtles, the aquatic turtles, all I see is water everywhere and water change. And I'm curious to see, because I talk about the size of your collection too, but how do you handle that amount of water changes, that amount of cleaning? Yeah. Like I in my head, I would be all like plumbed out with drains and all that I would just open the drains and empty it in an ideal world, right? Which I assume 99% of the population is not like that. So maybe going into that kind of aspect, I'm curious as to that. I mean, let's start with that.
Yeah, it's a great question and a great point. And part of me, a small part of me, wants to be that person, and the bigger part of me is not that person and can't do that. So I had a lot of, I have a turtle basement here. It's like a second separate basement that was added to this house when the previous owners put on like an addition, which means like that's not where my laundry is and stuff like that. You can only get to it from the outside. So that is my main turtle basement, and basements are great for turtles because they get real cold in the winter, but not freezing with ice usually. And then they get real hot and humid in the summer, but not crazy hot, because heat probably kills as much as cold does, or even more, you could argue. And so that's great for turtles. Now I had a lot of turtles down there, a lot of water turtles down there, and tried my hand at, building my own filters and keeping the water really clean. And I was successful some of the time. But other parts of the time, I was pulling what little hair I have out, trying to figure out how the heck to keep them happy and keep the water clean and keep the room from smelling and all that sort of stuff. So in 2023, I took a week off of work, which gave me 9 days with the weekends on either end to get my butt outside and build a greenhouse. And I built one kind of from the ground up with lumber. I built the whole thing, designed the whole thing, and it's really the best thing I've ever made in my life. And that was made because I wanted to keep these aquatic turtles, but I was at my wit's end with trying to filter the water. So those animals now live outside. It gets real cold in the winter, but I generally avoid ice. I did get ice this year because we had such a cold winter. But just a little bit of ice on top of the water in a couple of the habitats. But basically out there, I just pump the water out when it needs to be freshened up and bring new water in. And over the winter, everything's so dormant that it's just fine. There's lots of algae and plants in the water that help to keep things a little bit cleaner. The plants more than the algae for sure. But it works pretty well. Every once in a while, smells like there's a bunch of turtles in there, but for the most part, it's not that bad. And the plants actually help a whole lot in keeping everything clean because the greenhouse gets so much sun that, things like duckweed and more importantly, like hyacinth and water lettuce and things like that help to clean the water a little bit too, in between water changes. So some of them don't need to be cleaned very often. Other ones need to be cleaned a lot, especially the turtles that eat the plants. If the turtles eat the plants, then that water needs to be cleaned a lot because those plants aren't helping, sustain the cleanliness of the water.
What I was going to say is the depth of your water. Do you need it to be a certain depth, especially if you do have ice that accumulates? Like, are you trying to go deeper to try to keep certain temperatures because of that? I've always wondered that, especially like I know with like koi or people that have like certain fish, they'll purposely have to have certain depth to be able to guarantee their survival or a type of, I guess you can actually call it hibernation with turtles, right? So
yeah,
I'm just curious to see if that's an aspect that you have to do with the outdoors.
Yeah, great question. And I know hibernation and brumation are both acceptable terms because I listen to snake podcasts. So thank you very much, Dr. Zach Loafman, for teaching me that and so many other things. So great question, Dom. And the answer is yes, to kind of both extremes. So in my greenhouse, I don't get a crazy amount of ice. I've only that one time and it was a little bit just on the top. So I generally keep the water low in there. Because I do have some animals that are a little bit less tolerant. So like we were talking about Hamiltoni, that's the Indian spotted pond turtle. I have those in my greenhouse. So they were in my greenhouse when it had ice and they look amazing right now that it's warming up. So they can handle some cold. But they wouldn't want to be out in my pond outside, which is out totally open to the elements. So that pond is 5'2", same height as my wife, under the waterfall in the deepest part. And it's not a huge pond, but it's deep in that one part. And the reason is because that gives the turtles a place to go when they sense that the real cold is coming. So that ice can be a foot deep, a foot thick, and it wouldn't matter for them because there's plenty of space for them to go under there. A lot of muck down at the bottom and stuff like that. So in the greenhouse, for the less tolerant of cold temp species, I want to keep their water level low so that they don't have to swim up for air. And then my goal is to avoid ice, and then outside, bring on the ice, bring on the snow, because in a way that almost provides a buffer to the really cold temperatures that come in. As long as you have gas exchange. So I use a de-icer in the pond outside so that the water doesn't become completely anoxic when the ice is completely solid over the top for a month or two, is what would have happened this winter with how crazy our weather was. Not complaining to you guys though.
Sorry, Mike, I'm going to ask one last question and it's on you. So I've got an even weirder question, but I want to know if my facts are somewhat right or not. And my questions are going to be very broad. Michael can go into the species and all that. But so my understanding is that turtles, when they hibernate or brumate, whichever you want to call, they literally go underwater and then do what's called a type of clayocal breathing, right? That they can literally absorb oxygen through, well, since my daughter's in the background listening, butt breathing. They can breathe from their butt, right? It's basically what it is. So do every single turtle have the ability to do that? Only the turtles that have evolved in colder climate that can do it. So the reason I'm asking that is if you have a turtle that's not cold tolerant, that can't really do it, but can still stay underwater for, not just hours. We're talking about weeks or days, right? Because if you look at like very northern turtles, they're staying underwater for God knows how long, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if my question makes sense there. I'm just curious to see if it's an evolutionary thing that only happens in certain turtles, or if they all have the ability.
Great question. The answer in everything with turtles is it's complicated. So it's not all turtles, but it's many, and it varies. So with some, it may be, they can breathe through their skin. Some they can breathe. I've even heard of species that could breathe, like soft shell turtles that can breathe. I think it's through their lips or something like this, like soft parts of the body as well. I might be making that up. I like, it might be something else, and I'm not like
They are funky turtles, so
they are.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right? Yeah, they are. So yes, and some do multiple methods as well. So it's not just like they have their one, but they have multiple. And then there are ones that can't do it at all. But most often we don't know. And it's funny because we talk about snakes and all these, like snake. There are thousands of species of snakes, a couple thousand species of snakes, right? There's only about 360 different types of turtle taxa. So you would think we would have a better understanding of what's what and who can do what, but there's so much that we don't know, because in only 360 species, we have such this wide range of nonsense with turtles that, like, here's the 2,000-pound turtle, here's the turtle that as an adult is this big, and everything in between. Here's the mata that looks like a log with a leaf head. Here's the Kelly's, the fly river turtle, that's a soft shell with flippers that never comes out of the water and glides through the water like a sea turtle. Here's the alligator snapping turtle that is an absolute monster. It's like there's so much variety, and then there's all the species that like have barely ever been seen, or I mean, there's species right now, turtle species that are legitimately extinct in the wild and just gone. There's like not one of them left. So there's so much that we don't know about many of the species.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think turtle. Well, I think reptiles in general too. There's a lot of reptiles that, like in terms of snakes, right, and even lizards and that too. That people just don't know actually what they do, right? Like we might even keep them in the industry or as pets or whatnot, and then we don't even. Well, I guess that's ball python. That's not to poop on ball python people, but like a lot of them think that some people think that ball python morphs are different species, right? Yeah. Like there's that whole part of it where some people aren't even cognitive of that. But yeah, no, like with turtles, and especially, right, like having like McCordi, which aren't even in the wild anymore, kind of thing. Like it's really important to preserve them. I guess it's hard to say conserve them when we're not, like, I'm not sure what you guys are doing kind of in terms of maybe getting ready to release them, but if there's also nowhere to release them, then at this point you're at least preserving them so that future generations know that, hey, this animal is only here because we have to put in the work to keep him around, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Do you mind, Michael, Dom, if I just take that for a second, that thought, that verbiage, the nomenclature that we use for like what we're trying to do with the animals in captivity? And I don't even want to use the word captivity anymore. Like, let's get into semantics. So I'm trying to challenge myself, and I just said captivity. I'm trying to challenge myself to say in human care. I recently went behind the scenes at the Philadelphia Zoo, America's oldest zoo. And I said captivity a couple of times, and the marketing person was with us the whole time to make sure that we didn't like get the wrong angle of any of the, like, it was awesome because that makes it easier. But she corrected me a couple of times. She's like, in human care. And I'm like, dang, I got to remember that. So I'm trying. But the other one is that term preservation. And I've fought for the better part of a decade now to use the term preservation because turtles are the most endangered group of vertebrates on the planet, rivaled only maybe by like the great apes, primates, I don't know. But turtles are right there. If they're not number one, then they're like number 1A, but they're like right there. And we'd say that they're number one. And that's after asking like one of the world's leading experts on turtles and primates, Craig Stanford. So anyway, there's McCord's box turtle. Perfect. One of my faves. I don't think any of those pictures are mine. What the heck? I need to get my stuff together, man. That's not right. Jeez. Anyway, I need to do a better job because when you Google these species, my pic should come up. Come on, get it together, Anthony. Anyway, so when Russ Gurley and I co-authored our huge volume called Turtle Preservation, it was only natural that that would be the title because the book is about preserving animals in human care. And a lot of that happens in the private sector, not just in the zoos, that sort of thing. So I thought, and some people did not like it, and we had lots of conversations about it. But for the most part, it kind of stuck in the turtle world to use the term preservation. And then we had that book come out, which is really like the most comprehensive book ever written on keeping turtles and well, that's just freshwater turtles. So the most comprehensive book ever written on that subject. Anyway, Trageser wrote a paper last year, came out in 2025. This is an actual scientific paper that uses the term conservation for keeping, for human care of endangered species. But they set up some different criteria for what they consider to be actual conservation, like what actually helps conservation, and very low on that kind of that list of things and like efforts and how they actually impact animals in the wild and the conservation of animals in the wild is actual captive breeding. I know I use the word captive again, so forgive me, human care. But what gets us closer to actually saving these species is sharing the knowledge that we have from the experiences that we have with those animals in our care. I'll give you an example. And this goes to what you were saying, Michael. The Burmese star tortoise was on the brink of extinction, right? Functionally extinct in the wild, probably on the fast track for becoming, the next dodo bird, right? They're going to be gone. And a conservation effort was set up to breed the species in captivity in Myanmar, where the species actually lives. And the effort to do that was not seeded with animals from the US or Europe or whatever in private care. It was seeded with animals that were kind of from the range country and weren't released yet or couldn't be released yet or whatever. However, their efforts to do it and be successful were informed by the people who actually bred the animals in their care. So that is so much more valuable than the actual little babies that hatch out of the egg. So a lot of we have this Pokemon mentality. We got to get them all, and then we want to breed them all. But the hill that I'm dying on right now is you can breed 20 species this year and barely have time to do it all and to feed everyone and clean everyone and collect the eggs and incubate the eggs and care for the hatchlings. Or you can hatch 10 species, or, instead of 10, you can hatch 5, whatever. Or instead of 5, you can hatch 2. But my point is, if you can focus and really document what you're doing and share that information, that is the closest to conservation you're going to get with human care of these endangered species. Because it may seem like it makes all the sense in the world to breed spotted turtles and just release them out in the wild. That's not something that local governments are going to let you do, that biologists are going to sign off for, because of fear of novel things that we haven't seen before, because of fear that we're going to describe a new species that hadn't existed yet. And now, last month they were the same species and now they're two different species, and you bred them together and created hybrids without even knowing it, because at the time they were technically the same species. So there's all sorts of complicated, the more you learn about it and the more you dive into it, the more complicated it gets. So, my thing is I want to help people understand that if they share their information, they have a much better chance of actually positively impacting the species in question than from hatching the egg. And that hurts me a little bit, a little dagger in my heart, because nothing makes me happier than seeing a little turtle hatch out of an egg.
For sure. And I think one thing that also helps people wanting to conserve things too is having those physical, like kids going to zoos or even seeing presentations kind of thing. seeing the physical animal,
Yes.
not necessarily even having to touch them, but seeing them in like really nice zoological institutions like Philadelphia or the National Zoo, like your video today, like they're like that helps spark that connection with nature, right? Like you don't necessarily have to keeping them also helps that, but not everybody's going to keep them or is prepared to keep them or has room to keep them. So seeing those physical animals as like as a representation kind of thing, and giving keep people that like kind of that physicalness to it rather than just hearing it, right? And then it just kind of turns into background noise instead of actually seeing it, right?
Yeah, I can give you an example with that. So like the McCord's box turtle, they were so common, and this is actually published in the literature. They were so common in the 1970s that farmers would pick them up on the ground and throw them at their livestock. Okay, so there were more on the ground than there were like rocks. And I didn't know that people threw things at their livestock. That was news to me. But that's apparently something that people do when they're caring for, or I don't know if caring for is the right term, when when they're doing whatever they do, herding their livestock. Herding with a T as well. Okay, anyway. But now they're extinct in the wild. They haven't been found since 2010. So between 1970 and 2010, 40-year span, they went from being super duper common, thick on the ground, as Steve Irwin would say, to now being completely wiped off the planet. Now that's a species that I breed. There's nowhere to send them back to your point, Michael. There's no habitat left because of logging and other things. And if they were sent back, they just get snatched out of the wild, and someone would be excited to say, I have a wild caught McCordi, which is more valuable because it's from the wild. So it's more potent and it's more special, or whatever. So my animals aren't going back. But at this moment right now, I don't know if all the viewers are aware or not, but the North American box turtles from Canada down to Mexico, all the species are being poached at an incredibly alarming rate. I mean, like we've known about this for over a decade now, but I mean, it is extreme at this point. There are so many being intercepted right now at places like JFK Airport that officials that are actually finding boxes of turtles are just letting them go through to Asia because there's nowhere to send them anymore. And that hurts people's feelings. Like, well, I would take the box turtles. Yeah, but they don't trust you to take the box turtles. So we have this divide and this issue right now. And it's a lot of work to do that. And everything. Like, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, like, this is the reality. There are so many. So anyway, people in the general public don't even know that. So when I go out to do educational talks, if it's around the Northeast where I live, I'll take a McCord's box turtle with me and I'll say, here you go. This is one of the rarest animals in the world. You know, people talk about giraffes and tigers and lions and gorillas and everything else. This is one of the rarest animals in the world. There are 0 in the wild and there are a few hundred in captivity. And you're holding one in your hand right now. And that's the value. More than that animal going back to the wild right now is how can we get people to actually care, you know, to put down their phones and their social media for 4 seconds and to actually care about this. And then also to use it as an example for our box turtles, because they were common a couple decades ago. And now they're becoming way less common. And guess what? Look at this turtle that was common and getting thrown at livestock 4 decades ago and now is gone. So there's definitely
for sure.
The one thing I'm going to say, though, is the advantage that you guys have, like considering your section of the hobby, so the turtle hobby, is that turtles are cute. They're viewed as nice, gentle creatures, right? Nobody swerves and purposely hits a turtle. Okay, maybe some do, but you know what I mean. People swerve. Okay. Yeah. But people swerve and purposely hit a snake, right? Like totally. Snakes have always been viewed in a poor light. I don't even know if that expression doesn't make sense in English. Anyway, I don't know how to say it. It comes from French. But when it comes to turtles, people usually view them as a positive thing or as a nice thing so I'd say you kind of have that going on for you.
Usually.
Yeah, usually. And then the second thing I wanted to ask you is when it comes to the turtle hobby, the taxonomy of things, do people tend to be more lumpers or more splitters? And because you're talking about 360 species of turtles worldwide, which seems like ridiculously small. So to me, in my head, considering how big the world is and everything spreads and everything evolves, I feel like there should be thousands. So is that because there should be tons more described species and it's not being done? Or is that really because that's all there is?
Depends who you ask. I'll answer the second question first. So I think in general, my feeling is that there are more splitters than lumpers. But there are people that really work hard to try to lump what the splitters are really pushing to do because they feel like it's too much. Or, I have a friend who's a taxonomist and he's like, there's 30 different mud turtle species that are not described. I know what they are. And they're like, here's the rundown. Like he's got it all mapped out and he's really on top of it. So for the most part, turtle taxonomists are splitters, but there are some lumpers in there. And I think the lumpers would tell you they're not lumpers. They're just like, pure scientists who are trying to do the right thing and do what the science tells them to do, which I guess the splitters would say too. So yeah, I guess it is just lumpers and splitters, but I think most are splitters. It just takes a lot of science to get it done. And a lot of these places with like undescribed stuff, most of the undescribed stuff is either tough to get to or doesn't have as much, people have bigger things on their mind, like war and who knows what else that's going on in different parts of the world. So that's that question. And the other one was just your comment about turtles in general, and that is true. But I will say, sea turtles are sexy. Sea turtles get a lot of money, and people care a lot about sea turtles. Turtles that live in swamps and deserts and bogs and bayous and things like that, most people don't even know they exist. And, people don't even know that there's really all different turtle species. They're just like, yeah, there's a sun turtle, and that's the painted turtle that lives on the log, but that's also a cooter and a slider. Those are all the sun turtles. And then there's the snapper over there. And the snapper, when you say turtles all have good, are pretty much well liked, snappers are not. So what most people don't realize is 70% of a common snapping turtle's diet is plants. Alligator snapper eats acorns. Like, these are not the vicious monsters that people make them out to be. They are awesome, amazing animals. They are legitimately dinosaurs. Like they've lived virtually unchanged for 200 million years and are still here today as that same thing. Meanwhile, T-Rex lived 65 million years ago. Like we're not just talking about dinosaurs. We're talking about like Stegosaurus 200 million years ago. Like that's a crazy amount of time. And they're not really respected the way they should be. It's like, oh, the snapping turtle, I know it ate all the ducklings, and I know it ate all the baby swans, and I know the snapping turtle, and really they're very poor hunters. Alligator snapping turtles are better hunters with their little worm appendage that they use to get the fish to come in, but common snapping turtles are very clumsy, poor hunters. They're scavengers. They're opportunistic scavengers. Yes, they'll eat whatever they can get their beak on, but they're eating mostly plants. And yeah, so people will shoot them, and people want them out of their pond, just like gators and everything else. They see them as a huge nuisance. Yeah, and people do swerve to hit them. Blake Shelton, famously, he made a post in 2011. Are box turtles protected in Oklahoma? I think those are the details. I think it was Oklahoma, because if so, I didn't just purposely swerve to hit one. LOL. So all you country music fans out there, I'd love to meet him.
I'd be okay with somebody swerving to hit him.
Exactly.
I hate hearing that kind of shit. It bugs the crap out of me.
Yes, and I also hate hearing his music.
Sorry. I don't like country. Is he country?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very.
I hate country. Yeah. So it's.
Oh yeah. Same here.
Same. But you take something as simple like, what is it? Gives. The two sayings that I see is give snakes a break, that you see bumper stickers, and there's one for turtles. It's I swerve for turtles, or
I break for turtles. I break for turtles. Usually, yeah.
I'm seeing them a lot, and I love seeing that kind of stuff, right? Because you don't see somebody, you'll never see like a bumper sticker saying like, I swerve for raccoons or things like that, right? Which is very rare that you get the non-hairy, cute creatures that get some of the love, but that's something that's relatively new. Like I'd say 10, 15 years ago, you would have never seen that. Yeah. So it's kind of nice to see that kind of stuff. And going on common snappers, like the most of the, like for us here, we get the common snappers, the yellow bellies, the painteds, the blandings, the raider sliders, trying to think what else. We have
Spotteds.
Spotteds. I'm trying to think of what else
awesome.
we have.
You have musks.
We definitely have musks. Wood turtles.
And wood turtles. That's what I meant.
Bog turtles, maybe? No, I don't think so. So, and I've seen them all. Like whenever I go in the Otto River is literally 3 minutes away from here, and I've seen them all. And you see, there's good places you can go and see them all. It's quite fun. I personally love finding big snapping turtles. They're so easy to catch. They're so slow. And to me, there's nothing more gratifying than picking up a big monster and just having it looked. And I love them. So they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, in the veterinary field, I was running several hospitals before I became a corporate sellout and just began, working from home and traveling for that. But when I was in the hospitals, you get these amazing professionals, these veterinarians and these technicians and things, and they're so talented. They could do anything, and they're never scared. And they I'm like this big guy, and I'm like, man, that cat scares the hell out of me, or that dog, forget it. I mean, I'll do whatever, but I'm like following their lead. But like, they will freak out for a little turtle or a snake. And I'm like, bring on the anaconda, bring on the alligator snapper, or like, finally I'm in my element, because dogs and cats freak the hell out of me. But I agree. Snapping turtles are easy to handle. They're slow, easy to catch, especially once you know what you're dealing with. I mean, a common snapping turtle is going to get you with its claws. A large soft shell turtle is going to get you with its claws probably. But as long as you're not getting bit, then you're doing it right.
On the same token, is there actually any documented cases of anything actually attacking a human or going for a human? Because I feel like and I'm actually not saying this is a joke, but
I don't have any experience with that. I did have one come after me, but it was a captive one that knew to see humans as food. It's like in its outdoor pond, and that was the only time I've been bitten by a snapping turtle, and it got me on my foot. I'm like,
I was gonna say, how'd that feel?
Woo! I mean, it got my shoe, and so that was good. The shoe helped me, but that thing came right after me. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember the Animal Planet show. The guy, I think he's from Arkansas, with his missing teeth, Call of the Wild Man, the Turtle Man, live action, and he would act like he was one with the turtles, and he would jump in the pond and catch these turtles out. He would always say, he'd get up and he'd dramatize it, like, oh, he was charging at me underwater, and I had no, he wasn't. He just wasn't, because they don't. I mean, could they? Yes, but every time you're going in, is he actually coming after you and trying to come at you and charge you? No, he's not charging you. Like, they legitimately, when they know you can see them, and they will either try to sink down in the mud and hide or run away. And yeah, they just don't try to come after you. They get their reputation from their behavior on land. If you pick one up, it's one of the angriest animals you'll ever deal with. If you see it on land, they try to make themselves look big and stand up like a Halloween cat, like a Halloween cat graphic or whatever, when they always do this. But they're, that's just because they're awkward. And, alligators do the same thing. They're awkward on land, and they're out of their element, and that's where they get their reputation.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you go herping and you try to catch them or you go anywhere, they will do everything to get away from you. Yeah. The only real captive setting I have of with big turtles would be one big alligator snapper that we had when I worked at the zoo, and we had two big alligators in a pond that was maybe, 20 feet by 20 feet, about 6 feet deep. And there was a big alligator snapper that lived with the two alligators. And one of the shows we did all the time was just jump in the water and, pick up the alligators. There were about 300-pound alligators, and it was a great show for the zoo, and people loved it. That alligator snapper would see us go in. It would go all the way to the corner and just stick head in the corner with its hind legs back to yours and not even move. I mean, You'd be looking in the water to check where it was, because, I don't know, she was probably about 1.5 feet wide, maybe almost 2 feet wide. She was a big girl, she would have hurt, but never, ever did it ever come close to you. If anything, it was just scared, it was just scared of you. It just wanted nothing to do with you.
And that's an animal that gets fed by humans.
By humans all the time,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
So if one is ever going to do...
rats and everything.
Right. If one is ever going to do what that one did to me, it's going to be an animal like that that's fed by humans. But they just don't. They have this reputation that doesn't really fit who they are, what they are. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, going back into that splitting talk, because that's also another worry of me jumping into the chelonian stuff is, well, like especially with like Russian tortoises. I've listened to that one show that Ryan and Tom did. It was like, oh, so there's like 6 species of these that are all probably mixed into the hobby. It's like, no, I don't even like, not that they're not animals and that you don't want to keep them, but it's like, well, as somebody who tries to keep stuff as like in their kind of species, right? Like I don't want to intentionally make hybrids. It makes me almost want to step back and kind of see how people define them, kind of thing, just to not progress with the hybridization. Or, well, I guess on the subspecies level it's not as bad, but like I don't know, but then on the subspecies level, that's like crossing your coastal with a jungle carpet, or your coastal with an Irian kind of thing, right? Like you're like, it's not great. Like you probably, if you can, and it's probably best to kind of keep them together, I guess, kind of thing. But that's just one worry why I haven't fully jumped in, because I feel like, right, with the musks, it's like, well, I kind of want to get them, but then I feel like when you jump into something quickly, you almost need to really get into it, because like you have to, some of the stuff that like we deal with, like you don't like, you hear carpet python, right? And then a lot of people just go and get a like a little mixed carpet or a hybrid or something. And then, like, I guess, well, green trees are even the better example of them, with all the designer stuff, which are just hybrids, because now we know that there's 2 species and 4 subspecies, but they're probably 6 or 7 actual species that all are genetically and physically different, if you know what you're looking at, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. That's just stuff I've always kind of thought about, especially this wanting to step back and kind of wait, kind of thing, and really make sure I get into something that I kind of know at least a little bit about.
The fact that you're thinking about all that means you're winning. That is the way to do it right, is to think about all that and to make the best educated guess you can when you move forward. My rebuttal to your thought about not keeping Russian tortoises would be the question, well, why are you wanting to keep and breed them? Because again, they're not going back to the wild. Russian tortoises are still now that's slowing down now, thankfully, but like they're being taken out of their range countries and sold into the pet market like no other species really in the world. No other turtle species for sure, turtle or tortoise species. And they're not going back to the wild, whatever you produce. So if you think Russian tortoises are a good species for somebody in Canada to work with, then to me, it's worth working with them. And you do everything you can to try to breed ones that look like other ones, especially if they are long-term captives, if they originated in the wild. But if they're already captive bred too, chances are you have a mix there. And they are different subspecies, not different species, the different Russian tortoises. Agrionemes is the genus name. So you're not doing any harm by keeping or breeding them. I think you should always try, especially when we're talking about turtles and tortoises, because they have all shown how rare they can become in only a couple decades time. So a species that's not rare today, like the Russian tortoise, could be on the verge of extinction in a couple decades. So it's important to try to keep them straight as much as you can. But if you keep detailed records, do the best you can with trying to identify them. Try to find someone that'll do genetic work. Like, that's the fun part, because then you're taking it to the next level and saying, I'm not going to just be flippant and, willy-nilly about the way that I do this. I'm going to take it to the next level because I think it's important. So you say, I don't know if I want to for that reason. And I say, wouldn't it be an amazing opportunity to take keeping to the next level, because you're working with something like that and trying to make sure what you're doing is potentially going to help the situation in the future.
And I think if your worry is that you're taking like different types of Russian turtles, or that it would be split, just try to acquire some that would be the same locality. Therefore, you're reducing that risk, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
you
that's just
can.
the tough
It's
part.
tough to do that. Yeah.
Here, like even up here, like there's lots of people breeding them, and we can't bring in any more. But that's the other thing is that they're just Russian tortoises.
Right.
That's kind of all they're. Same with
Yeah.
Hermans. Hermans are just here. They're just labeled as Hermans, but I'd pretty say like other than maybe some old timers that maybe have some westerns or some of that other subspecies that I can't think of off the top of my
Dalmatians.
mind. Yeah,
which
But
are
I would
not
say
valid anymore.
okay. But
But
I'd say like
that's one of those things.
Yeah.
They are different with a different locality. So if you knew they were Dalmatians, but you can
You can
work with
still keep
somebody.
them.
Yeah, you can work with somebody like a Chris Leone to say, like, what are these? Should I breed them? I'm going to always err on the side of you should breed them because there's not a lot of turtles and tortoises in especially in Canada and something like that. And those are a good species, whether you're in the US or
and
Canada
most
or
of them
anywhere
here
else.
are Easterns. I want to say like that's what
Easterns,
I mean. Like they're probably all of them, if not most of them, are most likely just Easterns.
Yeah,
which is almost makes me easier because it makes it feel like they're most likely Easterns. They look like Easterns. They fit the description kind of thing. So I felt kind of good with that. But they're also older animals, so they needed a home anyways in terms of that. Yeah.
Is it possible it's too late to make sure that they're the right kind? You know what I mean? Like it's like if you were to say like I'm going to breed bearded dragons and I want pure bearded dragons, but there's no such thing. You're already way past that, and you're never going to get pure bearded dragons or leopard geckos, right? So if you were to talk about the Russian tortoise, are we at the point where it's kind of that, or you think no?
No, because they're not bred very much.
Yeah,
even in the US where there's, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them that have been imported, and probably a couple 100,000 of them that are still alive and being kept. Those ones, you're still not to that point because they're just not bred. They're not that easy to breed, honestly.
I was going to say, is it that nobody wants to breed them because there's so many imported that they're considered like a throwaway tortoise? Sorry to call it that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that, and there are certain species, like I would put painted turtles on this list. They're seen as being very easy, but they're not always. Like they tend, especially, my friend and one of my mentors and someone I look up to, Bill McCord, is he said something that always sticks with me, and it's funny, but it really is true. If you want to kill a turtle, breed it, because when you start keeping adult animals together, it gets complicated. And when you're talking about Russian tortoises, which have been imported so much, a lot of them come with a myriad of underlying issues and disease and who knows what else. And now you're putting them all together, and in these it's stressful in general. Just the fact that everything they knew, whether that was 3 years ago or 1 year ago or 10 years ago, still they get moved around and all of that. And now they're together, and there's this rambunctious male, and he's going to joust with the other male. And then here's the female, and she's got two males coming at her. And it's just stressful, and stress is a huge killer for reptiles in human care. I almost said captive. I'm gonna
say there's the same saying with snakes, right? It's the same thing. It's the best way to kill a snake is to try to breed it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more stressful, no matter what animal you put in there, is to do that. You want to keep a turtle alive forever, just keep it alone, keep it away from other animals, never breed it. Chances are it'll live for a much longer time, right? But
and if you look at like a Russian tortoise, they're cheap compared to other species. So say, okay, I'm going to get 8 of them because they're cheap. I'm going to throw them together, and maybe you give them a little less space because they're cheap. I could always replace them. It's not the end of the world. Maybe there's some, benign neglect there. Maybe it's not benign. It's just neglect. And then there's the underlying pathogens and everything else they have going on top of the stress from being moved. Who knows how many times, how many middlemen they went through, and then the stress of them being together. And it's a myriad of all those things. And then also maybe some other people that could do well at breeding them, but don't prioritize it because they're not that valuable. So it's like all of those things together. Complicated.
That's interesting. It's just that feels weird to hear from you saying that, because here it seems like they're all, because we can't get wild caught, but there does seem to be like at least a handful of breeders that really produce Russian tortoises.
That's good.
Just like the Hermans.
It may just be different because it's different there, and that if you could breed any turtle in Canada, it's gonna, as long as it's legal, there's gonna be a market for it because there's only so
then
many
they
choices.
they hold a value that like them and Hermans are kind of that same, and then the next step is like the leopards, and then you got Indian stars are kind of, actually there's a bunch of people breeding those now, so they're gonna come down below $1,000 kind of thing, and then I think Egyptians are that one that's still like really up there, just because there's I think only one guy breeding them, and it sounds like he's only really releasing males kind of thing. So they're just really, although there is one guy with elongateds, I think, and then there's a couple people with hingebacks kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's pretty limited.
It's just
Even box
interesting.
turtles,
Like,
there's only a couple.
obviously,
people.
those things came in at some point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, there is one guy with radiateds in BC, but I don't think he's selling any kind of thing. And I guess they have been checked off as he's allowed to keep them kind of thing for wherever they came from, or they've at least been in the country kind of long enough to be okay. But yeah, no, it's odd when you see like some of them that you kind of like, you're like, I wonder how that got here kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's definitely like the turtle market's definitely, and tortoise market is definitely a lot different here. Like I'm obviously Canada, as we were talking about before, is one of those countries that there's those couple lakes and rivers that border the U.S. that have loopholes kind of thing for people just to go straight across and not actually have to really check a border checkpoint, right? And then they're not just for turtles, but they smuggle other things into Canada at those spots, right, in terms of like cigarettes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So cops are already kind of looking there, and that's how people get busted too, is because they're already looking for other stuff. So they're kind of just pulling over people anyways coming out of those places.
Yeah, I believe I saw an episode of Trailer Park Boys on that. but yeah, and actually I've seen stories going both ways where people have tried to bring rare turtles into Canada, and then also like rare turtles from Asia that were meant for the US coming into Canada and then being sold in like, Northern Illinois or something like that. Like, okay, this is interesting. Where are all these coming from all of a sudden?
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I've seen it at our shows in BC, where we do have Environment Canada, which is like, I guess, like the federal version of Fish and Wildlife, where they actually we even gave them a table at our last show because they're really easy to work with, and the only thing they're really looking at is tortoises. Honestly, is the main thing that they're looking at, and CITES 1 stuff. But then even with the CITES 1 stuff, I think people are more scared of the fact that they just don't want people coming in their homes and collections kind of thing, when they're not. I don't think they've really got too many people in trouble that are actually following it, because there's a lot of CITES 1 snakes up here, like Dumerel's boas and Argentine boas, that have been around since before CITES was even a thing, or they were CITES 1. So that it's like, yeah, there's no paperwork on it because it's been in here. They've been bred here every year for the past 40 years, and just look up some social media and the officers will kind of see it, right? While you do have some like pancakes or some that I know some people are getting out of them because they've been now visited by them and they just don't want the hassle of people coming. And there's a couple people here producing pancakes fairly regularly. Like I almost want to, like, they're one of those ones that have been on my, like, kind of like, I wouldn't mind having like kind of your setup, that like 8 foot by 4 foot kind of cool setup with a whole group of pancake tortoises. Like, that'd be awesome. Kind of
I'm
thing.
so excited that you actually saw that. You really do watch my channel. You're the kindest.
Oh yeah, no, I try to, like, every time I try to like look at stuff, I try to like research it heavily. So obviously I check out Pierlioni's stuff, and the turtle stuff is a little harder, like, because I always wanted to do like razorback musk turtles. Like, those are one that has always been in my head even since I was like a little kid. It's like one day and they're like available. Like, there's a couple people I think that breed them every year, but it's kind of like waiting. It's like, well, should I just pick up like the random adults that kind of pop up, or do I want to start with a project of babies? But then I also just moved, so I'm like, well, I should probably hold off on adding just too much to my overall stuff, and kind of maybe let stuff come to me to an extent. But it's that's a good approach. I will say, we're talking about tortoises and turtles and everything.
Generally, turtles grow a little bit faster. Now, obviously, there are exceptions like blandings take a while and that sort of thing, but they grow a lot faster in human care than tortoises tend to. Although there are exceptions to that rule as well. I know people that have had leopard tortoises lay eggs before their 4th birthday, but it's not the worst thing to start with like a hatchling razorback or a group of them, especially with how young you are, like to just grow them up and have that enjoyable experience. They're really cool though. And that's one of the American species that I still haven't seen in the wild yet. So I need to prioritize that.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of almost want to research them more too, just because like you see razorbacks, but then you see the odd person with like a loggerhead musk or maybe one of the other ones. And like, to me, like as somebody who's usually good at picking out stuff, they do look really similar, but I'm sure there's some differences.
The more you look at them, the more the easier it gets.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where it's almost like I don't want to buy it and then it turns out, oh no, actually that was this person you bought it from doesn't actually know what they're talking about, kind of thing. And I don't want to necessarily fall into that trap either, right?
Well, I'm happy to help. If there's ever a turtle that you want help identifying, usually I can help with that. It's one of my favorite things. I'm not the best out there, but I'm pretty good at it. Loggerheads are really cool too. I was just catching those out in the wild with Greg from Greg's Turtle Haven, Greg Brashear. That was really cool. Just like a little over a week ago. Like I can't believe my life is real sometimes, the cool stuff that I get to do. But those are really cool. Yeah. Now the razorbacks though, they do get kind of big. Like a big male razorback is like a 6-inch turtle. And those things are like almost as wide as they are long. So it's like a big chunky turtle. So I prefer the smaller ones if I can. So
yeah, for sure.
I have some musk turtles that are like comically small, like adults that lay eggs that are smaller than hatchlings of other species, like the actual adults are. So I just wrote like a scientific journal, a note. So it's a small paper, but on the smallest turtle to ever lay an egg was in my basement. 32 grams it was the weight of the gravid female. So she had an egg and she's 32 grams. So that's, that is so comically small. Like a full-grown leaf turtle is, 160 grams. This thing was 32 grams. And that's that leaf turtle is one of the smallest turtle species in the world, So wow. A 32-gram turtle with an egg is just comical. Like,
what species was that?
It's actually a stink pot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's this locality in Central Florida that is if it got described as its own taxon, its own subspecies or species, it would be the smallest turtle in the world. But because the stink pot has this huge range that goes like, in the south, it goes from from Florida to Texas, and then it goes all the way up to Canada. Like it's got this massive range, and there are some big ones out there. There are some that have big heads, they're macrocephalic because they eat like mussels and things like that. And then there are ones with little skinny heads, and there are some that are small. And up in the north where I am, and certainly where you guys are, they get bigger because they have to carry more eggs because they're only going to lay eggs one time per year because the window is so small for them to actually live their lives, and do what they need to do. So anyway, it's just fascinating stuff. And those little ones are just something else that unlike anything I've ever dealt with in my life.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why, like, if I do those pink bellied side necks do kind of get me every time in terms of
they're
like
pretty cool too.
They do look beautiful, but then they're like, but like, is it right to kind of like keep and breed? Like they're definitely like probably better than red-eared sliders, but they're still there's like it says they only get like 7-8 inches, but I assume like they probably get a bit bigger kind of thing. Like it's hard to go off of those kind of estimates on the Google kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that. So
what's interesting about the Alcea genus, I'll just throw this out there. When you just go by like straight carapace length, the length of the shell, some turtles are really round, almost as round as they are long. And then some of them are like beefy, like the shell height. So from like that plastron on the bottom all the way to the top of the shell can be bigger too. So you can have two turtles that are the same length, but one can weigh like 3 times the amount of the other one. So red-eared sliders are pretty aggressive, and they are quite a bit, even if it's only like a half an inch or an inch bigger than say like a pink belly side neck from the Alcea genus. I will say that the Alsea turtles, a lot of those Australian turtles are pretty flat. So I know that doesn't sound like much, but when, it's not quite as long as a red ear slider. Now they are kind of wide. They're not quite as long as a red ear slider, and they're probably like, half the weight of like a female red ear slider. So they're definitely smaller. Now they need heat, but that's everything.
Yeah.
Everything in Canada you'd want to.
That's what I'm realizing though. Is like, it's like a lot of these turtles, like even the Razorbacks. It's like, well, I actually should be. If I'm going to keep them, I should have some sort of aquarium heater going, even if it is only for the lower mid 70s. Like they should still have kind of something to bump up the heat from just kind of the ambient temp. Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe not.
If
or is a hot spot kind of good enough to?
Like, so I bred African dwarf mud turtles, which are really popular here now. And I know this is going to make everyone in Canada feel bad because I don't know. Are those in Canada?
So what is it? My buddy Ty, well, he got like eight of the, I think he has them as like helmeted African side necks, but I'm not sure exactly because I know like there's a bunch that are all listed as African side necks or African mud turtles kind of thing.
Helmeted are a different genus. That's Pelamedusa.
Oh, okay.
But those are still a manageable size. They're only like 5 inches.
Yeah, they were. Well, his are probably about that big.
But Nanis are like minuscule. Like 4 inches is a big one. And anyway, I bred those, and those are African side neck turtles. Like you'd think they need some heat, right? So anyway, I kept them in my turtle basement, and over the winter, they're in the low 50s in my room, in the low 50s all winter, and then during the day, a mercury vapor bulb comes on. And you better believe they go up to get that heat, but they actually behaved and seem to be thriving with that situation. You think of like a lot of deserts in the dry season or whatever. Like sometimes that air gets cold and then that sun comes out and it gets hot. So anyway, just something to think about. That like a lot of times they actually do really well with like a day-night fluctuation and. If they have basking heat so they can get up and warm up, like a lot of times they deal with cold a lot better. But if you're trying to grow them when they're young and get them out of that fragile hatchling stage, I do recommend keeping them pretty warm.
Yeah, I think with my snake collection, my room ambient, I think right now in this new place, it drops down to the probably mid to higher 60s at night. And then I try to hit 75 during the day kind of thing, or right around there. And then most of them have their own like heat that it's kind of bumped up to like 70 at night just for the warm side. And then whether it's a colubrid or a python, it's either at like 88 or 83 kind of thing. Like the pines, I keep a couple of them just ambient at the top of the room. So we're like above a heat panel kind of thing. Like you can always kind of fudge stuff and figure out like the best spots for your room kind of thing.
Some stuff down on the floor, some stuff at the ceiling.
Exactly.
In between.
Like my black milks, those things don't. It's like just they're good ambient, low to high 70s. They're fine. They'll eat every time, and they get 6 feet, and they don't musk on you or bite you, which is great. Yeah. No. Yeah. Already. So, So with the, we do. There was one guy in BC that was breeding I don't think they're the dwarfs. Well, when he brought some to sell to my buddy at the show, they were like already that big as like a couple month old hatchlings, but they were definitely mud turtles. I'm not sure if they're West or East African because I believe that's how those ones go. But they were that, and I love the look of those turtles. I just the way they look, the way their shell is. I don't know. It just does it for me, kind of thing.
A lot of people don't love them because they're brown and they're tough to tell them all apart. They don't have the crazy ornate markings of a lot of other water turtles. But I mean, a lot of people that know them and have spent time with them really love them a lot. My thing with them is that they tend to be a little bit aggressive. Some of the mud turtle species, the African mud turtle species. So that's I like to just be able to let my turtles be turtles and just let them do their thing and feel confident that they're not going to kill each other or stress each other out or whatever. So it's easier said than done with some species than others, but mud turtles, so that looks like a Pelamedusa there. Oh no, that's Pelusius castaneus.
I'm not sure on how reliable these pictures are.
No, that
But
is.
this looks different.
Yeah. No, that's still Pelusios.
Okay.
Look up Pelo Medusa, and that'll give you your helmeted. So it's similar,
Oh yeah.
but it's different.
Yeah, that does look a little more to what Ty has. Yeah, no, he got like a whole group thinking he would luck out, and no, they're literally all 7 or 8 of them were male.
Oh
And
no, that's horrible.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing too. When you have to have captive bred, is with turtles being TSD, so many of the species being TSD, temperature sex determined. Like, good luck, because you buy
Are
hatchlings.
Hamiltoni that?
That's a good question. You know, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
Because that's like one that I've like.
I think
Man,
so.
they're like a dream turtle, but
If
then
I had to guess, I would say yes, but I don't. But I
Yeah.
actually don't know 100%.
yeah, because they're like that dream turtle, but then it's like, do you want us? Because I think they're like $8, $9, $1,200 a piece. So it's
Mhm.
one of those like if you want to buy a group, like
Yeah.
you you really want to have those odds of it, right?
Yeah.
As for not as an investment, but like at that point, it almost is when you're
Well,
spending
when you're
that
putting
money.
that much
kind of
money
thing.
into it, and the goal is to breed it, you don't want to end up with,
Yeah.
4 males.
Like it'd be cool just to get one just as a pet too, because
Yeah.
I didn't realize until Rawl started posting his adults that no, they're not like just a 12-inch turtle, like they're like an 18-inch
They
monster.
do. And going back to that whole like bulkiness conversation too, they are a very tall shell. They almost, they're almost like the shape of like a musk turtle, but in a huge.
Exactly,
frame,
that's what I
14
think
or
of.
14 inches. Yeah, some of those males get really long. They're big turtles. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but they're awesome.
but exactly right. Like they're just so cool that it'd be
Yeah.
like, well, it's like the Bataker, right? Like actually, my same buddy, I think it must have been 10 years ago. He said they came up on a wholesale list, and I think he brought in a few Bataker that were somehow on some wholesale list he got his hands on, and he was like, yeah, he's never seen them again. But that was like one of those weird ones, because like now seeing them on your show too at one of the guys' places that's in Jersey that keeps them outside, and you're like, this one's like stunted and it's 20 years old and it's ginormous.
Yeah, and it is just a little peanut. That thing is so small. Hopefully she can grow, and I think she has been. But yeah, they do get so big. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show Dom a picture of these guys, because these guys are beautiful. That's why it's like, well, I could get a pink-bellied side neck that is pretty beautiful, but like way smaller.
Mhm.
Give it a pond in the basement instead of a.
Yeah, and I do have a large alligator. Well, not large, but a sizable alligator snapping turtle. I have a few marginated tortoises that have a decent amount of size in them, but for the most part, I specialize, because I live in a colder climate. I specialize in really small stuff. But this is not small stuff that you're going to show us now.
Just by curiosity, do you cohab different species together?
That's a great question. So the short answer to that is yes, but it depends. Some don't do well at all, and some absolutely tolerate it. Some of the pond turtle species do well. My main pond that I mentioned was like over 5 feet deep in the deep part. That has quite a few different species in it that do well, not only with the cold but also cohabbing.
And I'm guessing you're just making sure that whatever you're cohabbing has no chance of hybridization or breeding or anything like that.
Correct. Yes, and that is a big issue, especially with that's actually Orlidia there, so that's not even a Bataker that Sean's holding in the picture. But with Asian turtles are promiscuous. They love to fornicate and they love to hybridize, and it just like anything goes with them. And yeah. So it's funny because you looked up Bataker borneoensis there, and then you got a whole bunch of different Bataker. There was like Bataker basca in there, and then you had Sean holding an Orlidia, which is a different genus. But those big turtles do really well in Florida. They don't do well where any of us guys live, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, even fly rivers that are somehow here as well, and I don't think anybody's breeding them, kind of thing. You don't see any babies pop up, but like there's at least some people that have had some older animals that have either snuck in over the years or have just been around, but like nobody is really, if somebody really wanted to, they could probably do them well. But when you throw them in a pond full of monster fish or something, it's like, well, they're not really going to breed for you. And like
Well,
here,
those ones don't breed for anybody. So as far as I'm aware, in North America, I guess I should say outside of the range country, I've never heard of them being bred except the Bronx Zoo. And I'm pretty sure it was the 1970s found a hatchling, one. And that's the only time that they've ever been bred that I know of outside of the range country. Range countries, because they're from Australia and Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. I guess the guys in Florida would have, if anybody's going to do it, it would be them kind of thing, right? To do it nicely, to give them whatever beach kind of thing you want to kind of try to give them. And maybe you'd probably have to do some sort of drought, not even just for the egg thing, but just to like stimulate their, we kind of like it's this time of year kind of thing, right? But no.
I think it would be someone like Raul. I actually went into his pond there he's got like 8 or 9 of them in there, including males and females, which it's very hard to find females. Most of them are males. But he's got this nice, sand bottom, sand slopes on all sides. Like if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be somebody like that. But I agree. You have to really prioritize it and get lucky. Those are the eggs. For anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about the fly river turtle, Keratocheles and sculpta from Australia and Papua New Guinea, which is the only freshwater turtle with flippers. They never leave the water except to lay eggs. And interestingly, if anyone's ever seen the clip of David Attenborough holding the egg and then he drops it in a glass of water and it starts to hatch. That species only hatches when the monsoon rains come and the nest gets completely flooded. So it will not hatch until it is submerged in water. Crazy cool adaptation.
Oh yeah, I remember that video from my childhood.
Right, somebody must have like just watered the hell out of that Bronx Zoo setup, and just everything just like the stars aligned perfectly for that to actually work out the way it did.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the cool things I'll throw. Yeah. I know we're getting ready to wind up, but one of the cool things I'll say, because for like my channel, I like to visit other people. Obviously, I have my own stuff going on with over 400 turtles here. Don't tell anyone I said that, but I've got a lot of my own stuff going on, but I also like to visit other private keepers. I also like to visit zoos and aquaria to see what they have, and have been able to even do that internationally this year, a couple months ago. So you start to, you start to see trends. Every zoo's got their alligator snapper. Every zoo, most of the zoos have the fly river turtle, but what's really interesting is the amount of, there's Geoclemys hamiltonii. And that's not a crazy rare species, by the way. You would think, because it's on the American Endangered Species Act, federally listed, that it's probably not even one of the top 100 rarest turtles out of the 360. So just putting that out there. But anyway, when I go to see all these different zoos, you start to realize that most zoos and aquariums that I've visited, and those are the ones that have, the most turtles usually, the oldest resident, like the New England Aquarium in Boston, the oldest resident is a sea turtle named Myrtle. The Knoxville Zoo, the oldest resident of all animals, the oldest resident at the zoo is an Aldabra tortoise named Al. At the Bronx Zoo, the famed Bronx Zoo, with all the amazing, incredible animals they have, the longest tenured animal is a fly river turtle, a Keratocheles. So, like, there's so many zoos that have that story. Most of the zoos, the longest tenured animal is a turtle, which isn't that surprising, because not many of them are keeping like Greenland sharks that live for 400 years, and we know how long-lived turtles are. So it's not a crazy fact, but at the same time, it is a cool fact, because it just kind of underscores.
Mammals don't live that long, and even the ones that live long don't live that long in human care, right?
Yeah,
their lifespan are shortened in human care compared to reptiles. Their lifespan actually tends to be increased in human care. So I can totally see how that would happen.
Yeah, it's not a surprise, but it's just cool to see. So
yeah, I agreed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like even like the ball python at St. Louis that's like 60 years old or something.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
That's cool. I'm not sure if it's still alive, but like I think it was sometime in the last 10 years that I think it had a Partho baby too at like 60 something years old. Oh yeah. And like there's boas. Actually there's a pine snake guy that had a wild caught female black pine laying into her 40s, and she only just passed away. And then you got olive pythons that people have had living to 40 something years old, which I just feel like people, like when you put the lifespan, oh, they live 20 years. It's like, well, if you really take care of it and you're doing everything right, they should probably live double that almost.
Why not? That's so crazy. A Partho baby at 60. And that's another thing that's crazy to me, because I know that for reptile people, that's not the craziest thing, but for turtles, I don't know of any parthenogenesis in turtles. So,
oh, really? Turtles don't? For snakes, it's so common. Dr. Booth stopped recording it because like ball pythons, boas, like they're usually very weak and they're hard. And if they do get up to reproduction size, they generally, I think they either partho again, or they're not that strong, because they're almost like a last ditch effort to kind of keep the species going on some of that stuff.
Is there any documented cases of partho in turtles or tortoises?
Not that I know of. No.
How about sperm retention?
Sperm retention for sure.
Over a year?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, what are some crazy stories from that?
Like over 5 years for sperm retention. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. And then also, and I don't know how prevalent this is in other reptiles, but also like clutches sired by different males and things like that. And even like hybrids, hybrid clutches that are sired by different males. So like half of them are pure babies and the other half are hybrids, sort of thing. Crazy stuff like that too.
Oh, wow. You definitely need some genetic testing done on those clutches.
Yeah. I mean, you can just see it too clear as day, but like, it's just, I don't know, it's just crazy. But the craziest, I think the craziest thing with turtles is probably just the hybridization, that you have turtles from Southeast Asia that will hybridize with turtles from North and South America. Like what, how, from different parts of the world, like no problem, and then, hybrids are thought to be, not fertile, they're sterile. Well, guess what? There are a lot of different turtle hybrids that include 4 parent species.
I feel like that's type of species, or a type of naming of a species, has been completely ruled incorrect. Right. Like the amount of hybrids that can breed is way more than the amount of hybrids that can. I feel like that came from like maybe like the horse and what is it? Horse and donkey. That
it was the mule.
Yeah. But like almost most of the species, you can breed 2 species together and create a very fertile animal, or a somewhat fertile animal in many cases. So
absolutely,
I don't know.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. How are you with time, Anthony? Sometimes we go 2.5 hours, but I'm not sure. I don't want to overextend you either.
I'm good. I also recognize that I'm the turtle guy too, so I don't want to.
I can talk for hours like this. I'm having lots of fun.
I can talk, but I'm not going to go specifically. I've got all the basic questions, just what I'm more curious about. So
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I love it, Dom.
Like I would even start like from I'll even go about as basic as I can. Can you explain to me, one, is it chelonians or chelonians? Because I keep hearing Michael say it differently. I feel like it's chelonians, not chelonians.
So people say both, and I would say both. Yeah, both are okay. It's like the hybrid.
But which one's more okay?
Hibernation versus brumation. So chelonian, you see how I said it, is it's a Latin word, and ch in Latin is pronounced like a k. So chelonian.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the scientific
I felt like I've just learned from either hearing it from somebody or teaching it. I think I've probably heard it, because I probably would have said it some other way if I've read it. But it's just like, it's how I've kind of taught myself to say it.
Yeah, when I was first learning all the scientific names, I wasn't like out there talking to people as much.
It's all good, man. You just
that we say wrong too, like a lot. Like so those leaf turtles my first book was about the leaf turtles of the genus Geoemyda japonica, Geoemyda spengleri, and those are like leaf turtles that I'm kind of known for, that I really love. Michael's going to pull them up now. I love that, by the way. So like they're these really cool, cute little turtles, and the ones from Vietnam, spengleri. So these Latin names are so messed up, because that's that is like a Germanic last name that we're turning into Latin, which those things don't fit together. There we go. There we go. That's my turtle. Several of those are my turtles in those pictures. So, yeah, there you go. That is.
I love those eyes.
Yeah, aren't they the best? I know. So the scientific name is Spengleri, named for Spengler. But really, if you were trying to say it like from somebody who was like trained in Latin, it would be like Spengleri. But
Yeah,
we all say Spengleri.
It's just like
but what's right? Do you go with the Latin because we've tried to Latinize it, or do we go with Spengler because that's the name that it was that's what the name is? And I think that we're supposed to go with the name. So I do think that Spengleri is actually
sounds like you need Scott Eiper on. He's one of those like taxonomy. Not that he's a taxonomist, but he's really good with Latin. Like it sounds like with scrub pythons in Somalia or Somal. I think that's how they say it. it's instead of king horny, king horny.
It's
how it's actually supposed to be said, but nobody says that, right?
Yeah, right.
I say it. I think it's amazing.
Oh yeah. Now I say it. But like,
is that your horny snake?
And the next one too is let's not get started on the double I. So we talked about Hamiltoni, which really has a double I at the end. So you say Hamiltonii, but really, I think if you're going by the Latin, it would be Hamiltonii or something like that. Hamiltonii. Okay, great. So the more, it's just like anything with turtles or with reptiles or with science, is like the more that you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And some of this stuff is like, the more you dig into it, like you understand the situation more, but that does not get you closer to a resolution. It just lets you know how screwed up it is and how much sense it doesn't make.
Exactly.
You know?
So if I'm good with going another really basic question, which
gosh, hit me with it.
Okay, so I've got two really basic questions. The first one is: do you consider turtles and tortoises a reptile?
100%.
And just like that.
That's it. Science calls them a reptile. They're a reptile.
Yeah, but what is a reptile?
Actually, I think I just heard. Was it on yours or something? Somebody talked about how like was it turtles and tortoises, or was it something else that was like they're actually not even like they actually might be different, but I might be thinking of something else.
I mean,
I feel like when
they were almost like not reptiles, almost, or something weird like that.
I think if you was not me, but I'm here for it. I'm here to continue having the conversation.
So then the second one is let's talk about just the basic things. What makes it a turtle, a tortoise, and a land turtle? Like if you were to just, not sure it's good, but it's very basic. But I'm still very curious because
that's a question I get all the time. So like we humans, we want to be able to put things in their box and in their place, and we want it. So we have this black and white thinking where like we have to compartmentalize things and say, okay, this is a turtle, this is a tortoise, but they're just words that we use. So like you get to a certain point and when you stop using common names because the common names are all screwed up. Those general common terms, turtle, tortoise, are all screwed up too, right? If you go to England, a painted turtle is a painted tortoise. So generally speaking, all tortoises are turtles. All tortoises, terrapins, sea turtles, the whole gamut of everything are all turtles. Like all those animals with a shell, they're all turtles. But then we have some mixed up verbiage, right? Terrapin is one like you talk to an expert in the East Coast in the United States, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, terrapin is a brackish water species that has a bunch of subspecies." Okay, but in Asia, those batagur, those big those big beautiful batagur that Michael pulled up the pictures of, those are called terrapins too. So they're really just like common terms, but generally speaking, the animals that make up the tortoises, the testudines, those animals generally have more elephantine feet, and they live generally in a more arid environment. There are exceptions to that. There are some, like some of the conyxes, some of the hingeback tortoises live in really humid environments and don't want direct sunlight. There's a whole bunch of rules like a gremlin, but like, they eat mushrooms and worms, and they're just different. But then you have turtles that are the same way. Some of them even eat more plant matter than some of those tortoises, or at least rival them, I should say. I shouldn't say they eat more, but they at least rival them, and they're really terrestrial. So there's not much of a difference, except maybe, the physical structure of the animal, where they're not walking quite as upright, and they have, more of a turtle shape to their limbs and things like that. So there's a whole spectrum, this whole gamut, from these really fully aquatic turtles to these really terrestrial species and everything in between. And when you get towards the middle, you get some tortoises that start to lean towards turtle, and you get some turtles that start to lean towards tortoise. So there's the hingebacks, and there are some arid hingebacks too. If you're a reptile lover and you are into uromastics, then arids only. My buddy Phil, he's got some hingebacks that are more arid because he's into arids only. But then
which species is that? Because I know he has some. I just forgot. Are they Homiana?
No, Homiana and
because I thought they were the
humid loving species. Yeah, he's got, I believe, Nogui.
Yeah.
And then there's one more. Why am I forgetting the other one right now?
Speckeye.
Yeah, Speaks.
Okay, yeah.
Speckeye. Yep. Yeah, that's an interesting one too. Speaks hingeback tortoise, and it's Speckeye.
Yeah, no, they're cool. Actually, Phil is awesome. You need to get on his podcast.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
That guy is just so. I love that's why I love reptile podcasts too. Is I just love the philosophical talks.
Me too.
Because we had Phil on back in November, and that was just great. We barely even talked to uromastics. We were just because I wanted to talk uromastics and chuckwalla and xenogama and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Like him, and also Rob Stone, another guy that's you can talk about reptiles, or you can just talk about the whole as Rob Stone says, the what is it, I know this, I think about it all the time, the cosmic octopus.
I love that. I've been to both of their places, which is cool because I'm a turtle person. What the heck am I doing there? But yeah, it's just funny kind of how that works and everything. But I love the turtle, the reptile philosophy stuff as well, and turtle philosophy. I think it's really important to really consider the bigger picture and why we do what we do, and how we could do it better too for that reason. But anyway,
your book is sitting right beside a Paul Shepherd book that Phil recommended, kind of thing. So I got a couple of those Paul Shepherd books that I need to get through after I finish reading your book.
Cool. Are you actually reading my book, The Great American Turtle Chase?
Yeah, no, I got it for Christmas, and I finally finished. There was a book I got on the American bison kind of thing that was all natural history and how the whole thing kind of happened and current stuff on it. So I read that, finally finished it, because sometimes I'll go through a book in a few weeks, and sometimes it takes a year, right? So you need to get in that mode of, okay, I need to read at least 10 pages a day kind of thing. So your book, actually, I think I'll be able to get through that fairly quickly, because it's written really kind of easy but fast paced, where it keeps you kind of into it, right? How you wrote
that was the goal. Yeah. So I had that thing, a good chunk of it written. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Great American Turtle Chase, that was a trip that I took in 8 days. We started in Jacksonville, Florida on the coast, and then took Route 10, which starts in Jacksonville, Florida on the coast, all the way to Los Angeles on the other coast. And the goal was in 8 days. Well, we had to make it back to LAX to fly home in 8 days, or my wife would have probably divorced me. That's the longest I'd ever been away from my daughters and left her alone with them. But in addition to having to keep it moving to meet that deadline, you have to stop and find reptiles, because that's what we were looking for. So we found something like 59 different reptile and amphibian species, and 400 and something animals total. But I think it was 27 or 28 of those were turtle species. So it was a pretty epic.
That's
And we were
pretty good.
we were prioritizing turtle species, of course, because that's who I am, and it's the Great American Turtle Chase. But now we want to do it again and go from Central Florida, because once we hit the desert, we just got completely skunked. Because what's good in the Southeast is not what's good in West Texas, which is a herping capital of the world with all those king snakes, I believe is what there's out there.
Yeah.
Everybody's going, yeah.
Alterna.
Yeah, everyone's going, yeah, the different mile marker and everything. And which I would remember more if we found any. But what was good in the Southeast is not what's good in West Texas. We were out there in April, and West Texas.
Oh yeah, that's
June.
really early for them. Yeah,
cold.
June to August kind
exactly.
of thing.
And then what's good there is not what's good in Arizona. You want to be more like August, and and so it was unseasonably cold, and we were out there too early. So anyway, we want to do it again, and this time go from Central Texas, go east to Florida, and then go either down to the Keys all the way down Florida, or go up the East Coast and get some of the species that we have here, like bog turtles, Blanding's turtles, northern maps, northern red bellies, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, it was epic. And yeah, I had that book, like a good portion of it written. So my two partners would drive, and we basically road cruise the entire country. And when we weren't like really road cruising and there wasn't much going on, I was writing in the back seat. So to try to get it. So it's very fast paced, that book. And there's a lot of craziness. I mean, we slept in a Walmart parking lot in Alabama. Like, we did whatever it took to keep it going, to try to make our deadline, but also stop and smell the roses, or in this case, find the turtles. So it's pretty epic.
Yeah, no, I definitely look forward to reading it. And then I'm actually ordering Craig's new pine snake book, as a guy who keeps and breeds Kentucky pines. I should probably have his book as I already have his other books, because he's another really good storyteller, right? Like, he's one of those guys that you could probably have a drink and just sit there with him and just listen to all the stories, even if they're the same stories. Like he's just one of the, it's like kind of like how that he's a really good speaker, like you are, and like other guys are in the hobby, that are kind of that positive, but also like good at communicating as well, right?
I appreciate
like a mix of both.
That's very kind of you to say. I don't know if I deserve to be in the same sentence as him, but I feel like I said, that's what I feel like I was put on this earth to do, is to try to spread those messages in a positive way. I think a lot of times with animals, people get so rabid, pun intended, about this thing that they care so much about. But like, we have an obligation. If we're really going to help the animals, we have an obligation to reach across the aisle and work with people that we might not normally work with, or that we might not agree with, and find a way to find common ground. We can't let the animal stuff be like American politics, where one side hates the other side, and there's, the more time that passes, we just continue to go in opposite directions, and it becomes tougher and tougher to work together, especially if you're somebody who cares about animals and human care, and making sure that that's something that's going to exist in the future. So like you guys, and I'm not trying to poo-poo this at all, but you use the term hobby a lot. I don't even call it a hobby. This is like, I want to make it a movement. Like, people that use industry, like, okay, good for you, bro, I'm all set. Like, no, it's not. It certainly is an industry for me. I'm not making money off of this, and that's not why I do it. But hobby is like, collecting football cards, or knitting or whatever. Like, if you went down to the Capitol to like fight for human rights, or like fight for women's rights or something like that, like, would you call that a hobby? I don't know that I would. Yeah, I would call it, like,
is what I've heard from from Loafman, and
I like that a lot.
And Phil and that, no, that I know you don't like that term. That's why it's like kind of like, it's like like I'm trying to think of ways, but then I'm also like, we need to find a term that's maybe easy to say, but then still sounds like you say, like that, like kind of solid thing that's not that's kind of gonna speak for everybody, not just the industry, right? Like, because there is one, but like it almost needs to be like a discipline. Sounds a lot more better.
What I love about discipline, and I never thought about that, and I didn't hear Zach say that before, is that you can use it. You can interchange that with hobby. So you can just start plug and play and just start using it. For me, it's not a hobby, it's a calling, or it's my purpose, it's my why. But in conversation, you can say, people who are, part of the purpose, like, what are you talking about? That sounds really weird. So people who are
they're part of the cause.
same discipline.
The part of the cult.
Cause. Yeah. I like cause better than cult, that's for sure. But yeah, like it's more than that. It is literally my life's work. It is my reason for existing. I mean, obviously my family is number one. I love them so much. I don't know what I ever did to deserve them, but I'll take it. But just this spreading these messages and connecting with people and trying to do whatever I can to make a difference for these animals that meant so much to me in my young and impressionable years. And I see it happening with kids now. Like, it's pretty awesome. It's a lot more than a hobby. When I was down with Greg just like less than 2 weeks ago, we're at a pond, right? And we're walking through the water because we're just degenerates. We're out there trying to find turtles. This is Greg from Greg's Turtle Haven. If anyone hasn't seen him, check out his YouTube channel. It's insane what this guy does. His knowledge is off the charts. So we're out in this spot where stinkpot musk turtles cohabitate with loggerhead musk turtles right in the same spot. They just swim right next to each other, which was surprising to me. I didn't realize that they like cohab to that extent. Same genus, 2 different species. And then also Barber's map turtles. It's a really cool little habitat. It was pretty overcast, so there wasn't a whole ton going on. But we're walking, and then here comes this kid, and there's people around. They're taking like wedding photos. Like, there's people everywhere. But this kid goes walking by with a net, like a long fishing net, the same kind I used to take to the park to catch turtles when I was a kid. And we start yelling to him like, hey, there's a loggerhead musk turtle. Look at those jaws. Look at those jowls. So we see the kid and we're like, hey, what are you trying to catch? And he says turtles. And then we're like, oh, cool. And we're like trying to kind of talk to him. And he just like scurries off. And the kid's probably like 12 years old, 13 years old, something like that. And he just like scurries off. And we're like, what the hell? Why is that kid like, why did he hate us so much? So afterwards, we're going around. Greg caught a turtle, of course, because that's what Greg does. And we're walking around with the turtle for a second, trying to see if we could find, he caught a stinkpot. We're trying to see if we could find a loggerhead so we could see the 2 turtles side by side. And this lady walks up to us and she goes, are you Greg? Talking to Greg. I'm like, how cool is that? So come to find out, the kid ran off because he literally saw his hero, who he would want to meet more than anyone in the world, and he freaked out. He didn't know how to act. So we end up taking pictures with him. He ends up telling us he has his own YouTube channel that he started. And, they're talking about places to find turtles and all that sort of stuff. But like, I don't know, like making that kind of impact, and I talk to Chris Leone all the time from Garden State Tortoise, who's one of my best friends. And like, he's starting to get noticed like in Target and Chipotle. He'll just go to try to grab a burrito and someone's like, oh man, I love your stuff. So I'm not saying that's why you try to do it. Like, Chris is like a celebrity at this point. But the point is, you could write books like I have in the past and have a few people, thank you very much, Michael, a few people actually pick them up and read them. Or you can take it to the next level and try to do something that actually fits today's realities just to try to make a difference, So now if that kid watches Greg, who really does things the right way, which he does. I mean, he's got all these permits with the Georgia government and things like that. Like, it's all kosher, above board. That's who you want this kid to be watching. And he is, because Greg decided to
not free handling your king cobra.
Right. Oh my gosh. I was watching this kid free handle a rattlesnake today. Like right in front of his face, like one that he caught on the road. I'm like, I don't care how talented you are. Eventually stuff can happen. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I just think, it's more than just a hobby, and we can definitely make a difference if we spread the right message in the right way to the right people.
Oh yeah.
In whatever way people are, consuming stuff.
I find using the word passion, it's my passion, instead
Yeah.
of hobby. Maybe that's a better word, but I do use the word hobby a lot because in the end, I do it because I love it,
Yeah.
but to me, it's just something that I love doing that makes me happy and all that. I'm not doing it to propagate and, rewild everything. Let's be honest here. They're living in boxes and I'm going to sell them to other people and they're going to live in their boxes. And
Yeah, it's true.
hopefully it's going to make a couple of people happy, but it'd be amazing to be able to have all these animals and release them if it could be done. But let's be honest, like 99.9% of everybody out there that keeps are not releasing them.
Yeah.
They're for our own selfish desires.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I want to be able to continue. I want the next generation to be able to take what we do and take it to the next level and then level up and level up and level up. So I want to equip them to be successful with that too. So, and I'm not poo-pooing anyone who says, I don't know why I'm using the term poo-pooing as a verb. I'm not trying to speak negatively of anyone who uses the term hobby or captivity or any of those things. I'm just trying to say, let's stop and think about the impact that we can have, the positive impact that we can have on trying kind of changing the narrative a little bit so that when the people that aren't on our team are hearing from us and others about what we do, maybe they can pause and think about how it could be positive instead of just, oh, I'm a hobbyist who keeps things captive against their will and, takes my animals from a box and sends it to someone else so they can put it in their box, which is exactly what's happening. But how do we try to frame it in a way that changes it? Like Animals at Home is a really good example too, where like that whole podcast, the whole existence is like animal welfare, which is so important. So
yeah,
and
and some of the stuff that what is it, Liam, which is like a part of that too, that he's brought up in terms of that ball python thing he did, where everybody got upset because he's like, oh, ball pythons are arboreal, when he didn't actually say that. He was just referring to a paper that, if anybody had actually fully watched it, just says that male ball pythons are more likely to be kind of found up in shrubs and stuff, and that they're eating more birds and that they're more active basically than females, which would make sense with some common sense, right? When you think, well, a male is going to move to go find a female, and juvenile snakes fit in that as well. Like it just kind of makes sense when he's not saying you need to keep it in a 12-foot tall enclosure. He's just saying they're maybe they would be good in 4x2x2 cages instead of a rack system kind of thing. And they will, because lots of people do keep them in those and they do just fine kind of thing, right? And it's providing honest,
I don't care how people keep their ball pythons, but I like to hear people having that conversation because it starts to challenge the status quo and move in the right direction. That if somebody hears someone saying that sort of thing, that's a good thing for our community to be discussing, as opposed to, oh yeah, throw them in there, it's easy, whatever. They don't need any lights. They don't need,
Yeah, the solid opaque bin that it's like, no, that's probably not great. Like Dom doesn't necessarily do naturalistic, but he's still keeping his carpets in cages with PVC pipes all around and sky hides and stuff, so they can utilize the space that they're in as well as they can, kind of thing, right?
And I'm not poo-pooing that verb again. People who keep things in a very minimalistic way. I do that a lot too. I'm just saying, depends. How do we talk about it? That's all I'm saying.
It's a numbers game, right? If you have 3 animals, it's easy to make it beautiful and grandiose 100%. And have the naturalistic view and have like even real plants and growing it all. Then you get to 10, you get to 15, you get to 100, you get to 400 in your case. At some point, it's not about having all the perfect dirt and everything. It's about, how can I clean this cage and all the other 80 of them and do it in one day and only 5 hours? Because if it was naturalistic, it would take me 3 weeks to clean it. Right. So why do I keep the way that I keep? I want to make sure that they all have multiple hide spot. I want to make sure they have humidity. I want to make sure they have perching, all that kind of stuff. But I also want to make sure that I can clean a cage in 35, 45 or a minute max, right? Even when it's totally disgusting, instead of, 20 minutes per cage. So I think that's the big thing here, is that we tend to be slight collectors when we really get big into it. And once your number gets to a certain extent, you really have no choice but to do what is best for the animals and what is best for you to keep them clean and care for them properly in a timely manner. And I think that applies for your turtles, or whether it be a snake or hoarding humans in your basement, whatever animal you're keeping.
Amen. That's it. I haven't done that for a long time. I got too many turtles. I didn't have space for the humans anymore. It's true. But the zoos that I visit do the same thing. So like, you know, they
in
have
the back rooms they do.
Yeah, right. And that's why a lot of them, like there have been a lot of zoos lately that I've visited that will take me behind the scenes, but they'll only let me film what's on display, because all the effort to make it look really pretty, bioactive, cohabiting, the right fish here and the right plant there, that's all on display. The stuff behind the scenes is it's much more industrial, much more sterile.
The back rooms of the zoo look like the at-home keeper.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they don't want us to film it. So that was my point, is like, how do we think more like the zoo and think about what we're putting out there so that we're always putting our best foot forward?
Yeah, and a lot of
people are going to hear this and say, like, so what you're talking about is being phony. Like, no, I'm
it's being aware.
This isn't my conversation with you guys. This is about who could pick this up and watch it. You know,
and I love how often zoos will tell you, well, we have to keep them this way because the ones on display don't breed. But when we bring them back and put them in these type, then we can breed them. And then we take a few of those babies to put them on display so that you can see them in their naturalistic, normal. Yeah.
Yep. It's true. And then there are so many species, because I'm into like temperate species, you know, that so like the colubrid version of turtles that don't breed at zoos a lot of times because those reptile buildings don't cool down.
Oh, the Pacific pond turtles.
Yeah.
You have some of those, right?
I do. Yeah. Yep. And I definitely, I hibernate, brumate those terrestrially, which is interesting, but they do so great. But those turtles are racist. They won't live with anything else. So they're pretty cool though. And those are actually turtles that came to me from a friend who passed away. And one day I just got a call from his widow, and it said, "Hey, Anthony, this is so-and-so's wife." And I said, "Oh no, that's not good." But yeah, there's actinemes, and so that genus, because now it's been split into several different species, but that genus is California's only native freshwater turtle, and they're really
California doesn't have painteds?
They don't. So they come kind of close, the western painted, and they do live there. Several species of painted turtles live in California, but they're not native.
Yeah, I'm used to BC, where it's mainly just western painteds, although the populations in the lower mainland are pretty endangered, but the local zoo is doing kind of like they'll hatch the eggs and then release the babies kind of thing. Same with the Oregon spotted frog. But then you see like there's definitely ponds with red-eared sliders in them. They're not breeding, I believe, but they're still there. You get old red-eared sliders are just kind of doing their thing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just say this, which I know Connecticut is not Canada, but we thought as recent as like 8-9 years ago that they weren't breeding here either. That's what people would say, is that we know they're here, they've been released, and they live here, but there's no proof that they're breeding yet. But they're definitely breeding here.
If there's two adults, they're breeding.
Right? I mean,
that's as simple as that. Let's be honest. Like they're,
you know, obviously the window is going to be way smaller up there, and that may impact them. But
but like Vancouver is also pretty temperate, right? Where like this year we didn't get any snow. Like it was a little bit of freezing at night, but it's not negative 10 or negative 20. I'm talking Celsius now.
Right.
It's like, but it's still like, it's definitely, if they're going to live anywhere, it'd definitely be Vancouver Island and the lower mainland kind of thing.
Even where I am, we have red-eared sliders in our lakes and our rivers, right? And we've got full-blown winters with frozen rivers for months at ends, right? There's cars go over the rivers, like you've got ice fishing for 3 months, right? And the red-eared sliders are there.
But that's the thing.
So if they're surviving, they're breeding.
but the water isn't frozen solid. So as thick as that ice is, as long as there's oxygen, which in a big river that,
It's a flowing river. So,
right, there's going to be oxygenation. So yeah, there's no reason why they can't survive because the water isn't frozen at the bottom and they can handle 33 degrees Fahrenheit. They can handle 1 degree, 1 degree Celsius, right before it freezes, obviously.
Because their native range though is Texas, right?
Or somewhere. Yeah, Texas to Louisiana, Oklahoma.
Okay.
But it's not as crazy big of a range as you might expect. There are a lot of turtles.
Aren't they like they're not endangered in their range, but aren't they like? Wasn't there? I thought there was something that they weren't as.
Their range is smaller than you might expect.
Oh, okay.
So like a stinkpot, a common snapper, painted turtle species, subspecies. Those turtles all have these huge ranges that just expand, these far expanses across the whole country. And red ear sliders are not that big, but they're in every single state and every single country. Like I often joke that they're like the Super Bowl, like anywhere that the Super Bowl is viewed is like has red ear sliders in the wild. It's like 180 countries in like every state,
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's not their range. And the worst part now that like I've been trying to let people know about too is in areas where the yellow-bellied slider, which is a different subspecies, not a different species than the red ear, is being bred out of existence by all of these released red ear sliders. So because obviously, they're released everywhere. And it's crazy to think about though that like when it gets that extreme that like an entire subspecies could be wiped off the face of the earth because of released pets. That's just insane.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, Dom, do you have any more questions? I think I have one final question to kind of cap it off.
I'll let you go because I got to go to bed soon. I'm gonna give the same line I usually give that I couldn't give on the last podcast because we did it in the morning, but I work in about 4.5-5 hours. So
woo!
That's why my eyes get a little bit small near the end. And
I don't blame you. I'm getting up to play basketball at about 4 a.m., but that's
I get up at 4 a.m. to go to work.
That's nothing compared to you. All right.
Go for your question, Mike.
Alrighty. So if there was maybe one turtle or tortoise species that you would maybe suggest to somebody instead of just impulse buying as like I guess in terms of being a captive, I guess either way, like I like saying the term, you keep what you like, don't just keep what people tell you to keep, but maybe like a good suggestion on a chelonian that's kind of a good pet, not a beginner, but a good pet kind of thing.
That's a really good question. I think, and you also have to keep in mind where you are too. So in the US, I would say something like Pelusius nanus, because that's one that won't survive many places if it gets released and it's small. I think Cora McCordi is the most personable and amazing turtle I've ever interacted with, but that's not available and not affordable for a lot of people. So I would recommend Chinese box turtles. Do they have those in Canada? They must.
We do.
Right?
That Julia lady that breeds the Hamiltoni, she has a couple of species of Cora.
Nice. Yeah. So, excuse me, I almost lost my cough drop. They're really charismatic. So I would recommend them. They're obviously an endangered species, so I always want to see endangered species breed. And then when you put those together, they do tend to get a little aggressive and they eat their eggs and stuff like that. So there are some complications there. But in terms of a pet, I think anything could be great if you keep it alone. But complications come in when you start to keep adults together and even young ones together too. Tails get nipped and sometimes animals get bullied and, So I think any turtle that you seem drawn to, just do your homework so you know what you're dealing with. If it's a lot of filtration or, a certain diet that's going to be a pain in the butt to feed, that sort of thing, think about that. But I think any turtle that's kept by itself would be a great pet. And then if you want to breed something, then that's when things get complicated.
Awesome. I think that was a perfect way to sum that up. Because actually, like Cora, have definitely been on my mind because Ty gets them in, like he'll bring in the three toes, the easterns, and I think there's some Gulf Coast too that are bred in Floridas.
Cool.
But like those for the box turtles, I mean, but then yeah, they got the normal Chinese box turtles, and then I think I saw that she had, I forget the scientific name, but it was like one of those, like, not leaf turtle, but like, those more, I don't know. I'll probably talk to you about it after, but
anytime.
Yeah, no, they're neat.
I'll tell
too,
you about
but
any of them. Yeah, if there's anything you're interested in, talk to me about it, and I could probably give you some insights.
okay.
Yeah,
But I would also, you mentioned
closet
Florida.
turtle guy.
Yeah, I love it. You also mentioned Florida box turtles. That's, of all the box turtle species, they're kind of small and they're so beautiful. I find them to be very rewarding and easy as well. It's just that when you're breeding them, the males tend to be a little aggressive. They don't leave the females alone. So
Interesting.
yeah,
very cool. Well, Anthony, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Really cool. Thank you for listening to my really basic, uneducated questions. I appreciate it.
you were great. You were great.
Thank you. Where can people reach you if we want to talk turtle, ask questions, anything like that?
Yeah,
Maybe
so
drop your podcast too.
I'd love if people would check out my YouTube, because that's the one that we're trying to push and grow right now. That's just called Just Turtles at YouTube. So check that out. Our podcast is called The Pondcast. We just kind of drop that on people once a month. And then the nonprofit is called The Turtle Room, and you can check us out at theturtleroom.org. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying. I'm old, but I'm trying.
Awesome.
No TikTok. No, too old for TikTok.
I know. I definitely feel that way.
That one I'm not doing.
It's a necessary evil, is what they tell me.
Thank you for coming on, Anthony. If you just want to maybe hang on just to make sure it uploads good, but
Cool.
It was awesome having you on, and I think we'll have to have you on again to maybe get more into care and whatnot. I guess I'll have to get your other book. Maybe I'll get Mike Crick to add it in on that Trumbauer order too.
That sounds
awesome. You can never have enough hurt books, that's for sure.
I believe you. And thank you guys for everything that you're doing. This is how we're going to make a difference, is by connecting people and trying to educate and talk about these things. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for Facebook, Michael Gillian. For Reptile Rejects on Instagram, you'll be chatting with Mike. For any of the podcasts, if you're listening to it, please on YouTube, press the follow button, press the bell, all those kind of crap. On the podcast, if you're listening to it, maybe I should be more political. All those kind of buttons and good things that bring up the ratings and make us look like we care about it. There you go. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all those kind of things. Subscribe. We appreciate it. For myself, Dominic Carbonneau on Facebook, Dom's Reptiles on Instagram. And to everybody still listening, thank you. Have yourself a great night, and we shall see you next week. Have a good night, guys.